Just saying that our arena has held up pretty well for a 50-year-old building. This will be a site that I'm later going to be proposing for a future rec center with a community pool, multi-use gymnasium, common rooms for people. And what we will have to do is, you see development to our left is when we come down Bimbrook Road here, traveling east, you will see some new development lands that are just to the east side of Fletcher's Road. Now, if you look straight ahead and then a little bit, I'd say like a 45-degree angle, in about 5 kilometers, you would run into our landfill site. We have the only landfill site that's functioning in the city of Hamilton. And as a youngster back in the late 1970s, I remember we had a Stop the Dump campaign, and which was very successful if you talk to a city planner, because they'll tell you, you don't have a dump, Mark, you have a landfill. That was a joke, okay? So the landfill actually occupies almost 440 acres, and it was opened in 1980, and material that cannot be recycled or composted is landfilled there. We have probably 20 huge tractor trailers traveling through Bimbrook every day to deliver that. Every piece of material that goes into that dump is tracked. Basically, they also have programs there that stop the seagulls and other scavenger birds. When they have a Harrison Hawk that patrols those lands. On your right, you see new development. That's all slated. It's going to be probably over 500 homes that are going to be added, which is going to add extra traffic to our rural roads. That's another, again, a huge concern for everybody. I understand that has certain populations basically popping up in their rural areas. We are now entering what is basically the little town that I kind of grew up in, basically, Bimbrook. And as we come up here, you can see the development. This, on the right-hand side, my childhood friend, this used to be his farmland. Sold probably 20 years ago, and they've developed it now. And as you're going through on the left, newer developments taking place. I like to see areas like this on our left-hand side, wooded, protected areas. We want to maintain those. We don't ever want to lose those. I have developments around my former house, and I watched them bulldoze down the trees. I called my counselor at the time. He said, they can't be doing that. I said, well, they're doing it right now. He said, well, they can. I said, they are. That was the story then. Anyways, this is a brand new school, a public school to our left. That is Belmore. And here is a traffic circle. Ancaster does not have the only traffic circles in the area. This one is a little... Yeah, I understand that. This is just to be outdone, okay? But you will see, as we're approaching on the left-hand side, is one of the gateways to our fairgrounds. Our fair is only 3 years younger than the Ancaster Fair, which started in 1950. I think next year is going to be our 173rd or something like that.
18th.
Sorry, did I say 17? Sorry, okay.
You said 19.
Oh my gosh, if I'm talking 19, that's when the Winona Peach Festival started. There you go. Okay, so anyways, there's Bimbrook Fairgrounds to your left. You can see we basically have baseball diamonds in there. We also have some towers that are supporting, I guess, the digital support necessary for the rural community out here. You'll see the grandstands over there. They are actually taken from Ward 9 area. Used to have a speedway there, and so everybody got together, and when that was being torn down, they went and got those and put them here, and we felt we had brand new infrastructure. How happy we were at the time. This used to basically be your corner store. It's still in the same as it's been for like 100 years, but it's all been changed around. This is a new volunteer fire department on the left. On the right is our new library that came into being in 2017. So we have got some things. There's a retirement home back there, houses 113 residents. This is our old doctor's building, now it's Farmer Dell's. This is the old Bimbrook Memorial, basically township building. This is the racetrack and the fairgrounds to our left. Coming up on our right-hand side. Now, Bimbrook, if you drive through Bimbrook and you're short on gas, you still have to drive 7 kilometers to get to a gas station. There is a proposal to put a gas station here. It met a lot of resistance from the community a little last time they tried to put it through, but I think it's going to be here. On the right-hand side, O'Neill's Farm Equipment. Very, very important fixture in the community. And this is our brand new home hardware. Brenda was instrumental in getting that through. They have a storm water management pond that was stopping that process for quite a while, but Brenda was able to get that through the city planning department. As you can see, we're coming up here to our first rural road that travels to the west. It's called Cemetery Road, and incidentally, our turning lane disappears right before it. I just don't understand what happened there. As we're coming out, there is going to be a French immersion school on the right-hand side. Right before that is the old site of Will's Bus Lines. It's been bought by a, I guess basically, I wouldn't call it the developer, but another family, and they're looking to possibly put a gas station with car wash in here. What we want to do is have our folks in Bimbrook be able to shop in Bimbrook without having to go to Elfrida for gas. I'm sure the Fresco grocery store, the only grocery store in Ward 11, would be thankful if that would happen, because it would keep people in town and probably shopping more as opposed to going to Elfrida and getting their gas there and then just shopping at Fortino's. This is Guyot Road. It's another road that travels east and west, basically goes over to Trinity Church Road. It's the roads that travel east and west aren't traveled as much. The roads to the right, very few commuters travel that way, so those roads don't have the same issues as the roads to the left as people are trying to make their way into the city. We are approaching a road called Golf Club Road, and Golf Club Road is the site for a new sewer trunk that's actually going to run all the way from Upper James. It's 10 kilometers long. It's graded at a 0.1 degree slope, and it's going to deliver all the sewage from the airport growth industrial lands over to the main trunk that runs down here, and then basically ends up, I believe, at the Woodward Wastewater Center. As we come up to the area, it's still a little ways off. You're basically looking at what used to be orchards and is now cropped farm land. Soybeans grow here. Corn they rotate between soybeans, corn, and wheat on a regular basis just to keep the land fresh for the next year's crop. As we're coming up to this road, one of the main areas is as we head towards Golf Club, you're going to see that sewer trunk. And again, what's happening now, we just found this out, is the big concern for residents here is this goes down, I think it goes down 32 meters in the ground. And what happens is when they drain to drill this tunnel, they have to drain all the groundwater. And most of these people are on well water. So a lot of these people in this vicinity right here traveling to the west will have to have water tanks put on their land and serviced through trucks so that they can have water for the next few years. We are actually entering Ward 9 now. I'm going to just keep talking for Councillor Clark. This area to your left and to your right is under, it's the largest area that's going to be taken out of the, I guess, going to be added to the urban boundary. It runs all the way from here, all the way over to Trinity Church Road, and to your right, it's going to run probably another kilometer, and then it's going to head down as we come around this curve here. It's going to head down into Elfrida and occupy all those grounds to the right there. So we're going to lose all this farmland, and one of my good friends, Drew Spolstra says this is probably the best farmland in the community. And without sounding too biased, I have to agree with him, and we kind of wonder, like, what's the strategy here? But that's seeing things from the rural lens. So now that we are in Councillor Clark's area, again, he wants to reiterate that this is significant prime agricultural lands, and it's full of natural heritage. This is another thing for us, is that this is basically the limit for transit out here, and the majority of people in Bimbrook actually prefer that they don't have transit to Bimbrook. They feel that Bimbrook is basically a community that you move to it with a car, and so it doesn't require transit. There are a few people that want to bring transit. It's mostly teenagers that are looking to try, and families with young kids that are trying to get into this center here to get to their jobs. So again, as we come up here, if you look right, you look and look over to the front and right, you're going to see these are the areas that are being proposed to be taken out of the, I guess, well, it's not in the green belt, it's a white belt area, and they're basically trying to move this into the side of the urban boundary, which is counter to how council voted last year. You just take it all in for now. I know it's a lot to see. On your left-hand side, I'll do a little plug for Queenston Motors. That's the used to be Hamilton Motor Products, and my father was service manager there for 47 years when it was down on Bay and Main. And he moved. He actually was the guy who coordinated it to bring it up here. And it's a thriving company, and it's anchored a lot of the development here. Centennial Parkway has, this is now we're on basically 20 Highway or Centennial Parkway. It's I think it's finished now. You won't see any blockage or restrictions. I actually drove this way for the first time in probably about 4 years last night, and I was amazed at how easily I moved through the area as opposed to previous years when we had a lot of construction on Rymel Road and this road here that would restrict your ability to move through the city. So a lot of people have, again, this is another reason, because of these changes that you do on these major throughways, is people divert them and they go on to the rural roads. To the left here, I guess, well, it's a new development. I can't even tell you what it was, because I was going to say it's the Taro site, but the Taro site's further north and to the left. On the right used to be a golf course that's now, I guess, being prepared for future development. Now I can talk about Taro.
I'm taking over for a second here from Councillor Tadison. We're going to be going past, on your left-hand side, you're going to see the name keeps changing. It originally was the Taro dump. Now it is the GFL non-hazardous landfill site. Most of us still call it the Taro Pier site. That was the name previous. They have received permission to expand the site, so you'll see that the berms on the side there are going to go up. It's going to be quite tall when it's finished. These used to be limestone quarries on either side. There's two of them. This is the east landfill that's currently blocked by a truck, but we'll get a better view as we travel past it. The west landfill has been closed for a number of years. There are some, I think, issues with it. We hope that that doesn't repeat itself with the east landfill. And that was the here, trying to go to school over the kind of kitty corner from the dump, which didn't make a lot of sense at the time, but I understand that it's proceeding now, so that'll be an interesting mix. See how high it's going in the middle.
One last thing that we wanted to say about this thoroughfare is that Councillor Clark wanted to emphasize the need for transit and better, more frequent transit, and it is one of the lines that is in the blast network, and it actually connects all the way through many of our wards, right over to in the industrial park. It's going to run all the way from that industrial park in Ancaster down Garner Road. It's going to hang a left here. It's going to hang a left back in Elfrida and go all the way down to the GO station, which will eventually be a GO station here. So another good example of transit connecting people and people being able to live in different areas of the city and get to another area without a car. So good on our blast network team.
Before you stole the mic from me, I was going to say that there's a royalty system in place for the landfill. So there are some community benefits that come out of that are destined for the borders of these former municipalities. There have been some investment fees that have come from those royalties, so it's a trade-off, but we do with it as we will. I think we're going to descend now down Centennial Parkway into Ward 5, so I'm going to pass the mic over to Councillor Francis.
I didn't mean to steal the mic. Look at you.
What do you feel, buddy? All right, away we go. Welcome to Ward 5. This is, we're cutting down Centennial Parkway here through the Niagara Escarpment, which extends from end to end in our ward, from east to west. Red Hill Park, all the way to Grays Road, obviously it carries on. Some wonderful trails, the Bruce Trail, some waterfalls. We've got Felkers Falls, which is not too far from my home. It's a nice little hike up there. And to the right, a little bit further down, is the Devil's Punch Bowl, which is a great place to go visit. And just down here on the bottom on the right is the Battlefield Park, which is historically significant for not just Stony Creek, but for Canada. We had the war, obviously the War of 1812, which took place June 6th, 1813. And the British forces were successful, and we were able to keep our country of Canada. So it's a historical site for our community. It's important to our community. Obviously last year we had the discussion about, because COVID shut it down for a couple of years, we had the discussion whether to keep the event going. The city had some other ideas, but the community pushed back, and I got a petition going. We had 650 residents sign the petition, and we'll be having our battlefield reenactment happen once again in the spring, in first weekend of June, this coming spring. So you can see the Battlefield House Museum and Park here to our right-hand side, with the monument on the top of the hill. It's a great park, a great museum. It's a wonderful place to come. And now we're heading down King Street here, downtown Stony Creek. And to our left is where the dozens of bodies from the war are buried. So we've got our rec center here on the right-hand side. Our Stony Creek Arena up top. A lot of wonderful little shops down here and businesses. And an older demographic in this area. This is part of the pre-amalgamation to the city of Hamilton. This is about a third of Ward 5 is from that pre-amalgamation. And we're which is where we currently are. Any interesting facts for me here?
I think you nailed them all so far.
I'm pretty sure, yeah, this is the Stony Creek United Church here on the right-hand side, and if I'm not mistaken, Councillor Clark was part of keeping this church for our community when it was going to be closed down. We have our Islam school up there that's going to be redeveloped into a park.
Downtown.
This is downtown. We are right downtown Stony Creek right now. This is a lot of nice little shops along here. Village restaurant here, great food. If you're wondering if you're hungry for breakfast or lunch or dinner, down deli here, Stony Creek Tailors, lots of little great shops to bring your family to. The Stony Creek BIA does a wonderful job. Run a lot of events, weekly events in the summertime, seasonal events. We've got the Powerhouse here, which is a historical site. Attic Pizza, obviously, as well. And here, this part of the road here, I know we're coming up close to Ward 10, but at Grays Road. But this part of roadway right here has the local elementary, the Catholic elementary school, St. Martin Tours, which a lot of the people, which I think there's a mayor that went to that school. And
Grew up on Grace Road.
yes, I grew up right here on Grays Road. So this is some traffic priorities along this road here. A lot of people do speed along this road, so it'd be nice that we can work on getting the speed limit reduced to 40 like it is on Grays in front of Cardinal Newman High School. So I'll hand it over to Councillor Beattie as we are entering Ward 10.
That was a great transition there. We literally just entered Ward 10 and immediately stopped for construction. So welcome to Ward 10, folks. This is what I'm going to refer to as Old Ward 10 or traditional Ward 10. This is one of the older parts of Stony Creek. A lot of the homes on either side of you were built in the 1950s and 60s. And actually a lot of folks here are original owners. So we've got some people with long history in these communities. Very big homes, very big lots. And as we progress through the rest of the ward, you're going to see kind of more of the same. Not a lot of density. But from a perspective standpoint, this is the only reality that we know out here. So when we start talking about density changes, it's kind of a tough sell because the perception is that what they have is good and what we have works. So there is continual pushback against changes to that. And I think one of the challenges that we're going to find is finding the balance between the need to intensify, but also the need to retain some of the characteristics of the original community. And I think they're going to let us through real soon. On your left, you'll see the little road that comes out here, Stony Brook Drive. There is a geared to income seniors residence on Stony Brook Drive, Stony Brook Manor 1 and 2. Two facilities. One of them had a terrible fire about 2 years ago. They're still recovering from that. Displaced a lot of the residents in there. Stony Brook goes out towards Highway 8. And you'll see in behind the homes on your right-hand side the beautiful Niagara Escarpment. It's the defining feature, I would say, in Ward 10. We have the escarpment on your right, and on your left, well beyond the vision of anybody on the bus, is going to be the lakeshore of Lake Ontario. What this does is creates a beautiful little microclimate here because we have the warming effect in the winter and the cooling effect in the summer. So we got some interesting weather patterns sometimes that develop in this part of the world. The changes in humidity and the changes in airflow. And it looks like they're actually going to take us down Corman. All right. Okay. Well, you're going to get to see Corman Avenue, which is named after the Corman family. They were prominent farmers in the area. And you can get an idea of some of the infill that's been taking place. You can see on the left some modern homes. What has been happening in this part of traditional Ward 10 or Old Ward 10, a lot of the older wartime homes are being purchased, torn down, and rebuilt either with much larger homes, or in some cases they're subdivided, and you end up with 2 or 3 homes built on the property that once had one. And there's some growing pains, I would say, with that, as people, I guess, are dealing with these infill pressures. And if this little house wasn't in the way, you could actually see right through on the left-hand side to Stony Brook Manor, which I was talking about earlier. You can see the back side of it there. So we're actually going to go straight down to Highway 8, and I think we're going to be turning right. And what you'll notice on this street has not been urbanized. And we do have this mixture throughout Ward 10, the traditional and the newer parts of Ward 10, where we still have some very old roads, old infrastructure that haven't been urbanized. Sometimes people want them urbanized, sometimes people don't. We kind of muddle through that, but you will note that there are no sidewalks on either side, but there are some shoulders. Okay, and now we come out onto Highway 8, and maybe as we look straight ahead and on either side, we can envision this 5-lane highway. It was built by the Ministry of Transportation in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s. It was maintained as a provincial highway until the 1990s when it was downloaded to our municipality. And I'm going to bring this back later because there is a plan to expand other parts of this road as we get into the Winona area. And I kind of maybe want you to just picture what this would look like going through an old historic neighborhood with old growth trees, historic homes, lawns, gardens, etc., and maybe the appropriateness of that. You can start to see on the left-hand side some intensification. This is a newer tower on the left-hand side. That's Mayor Horvath's church on the right-hand side.
Was, yeah, my
Saint
Francis Xavier.
Francis Xavier, right? Or Saint FX, as we Creekers call it.
Crickers, yeah.
And there's another development here on the left-hand side, the LJM. That is, I can't remember the name of it, Kingswood, I think it's called, or Kings Park. This one was appealed to the OLT. The OLT came back and actually increased the density, much to the chagrin of the neighbors. And you can see the very low density homes adjacent to it, and there's going to be some concerns as this new building goes up. It's going to be taller than the building that's existing on the left-hand side there. So we're going through some growing pains. That's going to be a theme that you'll hear me moan about as we continue on through the remainder of Ward 10. On the right-hand side, in behind all of these developments, is the new South Meadow School. Used to be Memorial, was rebuilt as part of a pupil accommodation review that the school board had. I was a part of that, and I'm kind of proud to participate and get a little glimpse of the new facility there. But there are some traffic concerns that we are finding as we rebuild our schools that is having an impact on the local community in terms of parking and safety. And there's some ongoing work that we have to do there. I really thought I'd have more to say. So what we're going to come up to in a few minutes, and it seems that the bus is traveling slower than I'm talking right now, so I'll try to either talk slower. No, that's not going to work. Well, the majority of folks who are in our community are commuters. And when we get to some of the main thoroughfares, the north-south thoroughfares that lead out to the QEW, we'll make note of that. Another, I'm going to say, this classified as high-rise development, probably not by today's standards, but when it was built in the 90s, it was quite a contentious issue. This is on the left-hand side. Yes, exactly. Where is the high-rise? Well, we considered it a high-rise back in the 90s. That is the Renaissance On the left, if you quickly peek over the yellow building, is Orchard Park Secondary School. That's where I met my wife in 1992. And we didn't date. We actually didn't get married until 2015. So I met her, but we just stayed friends. So there you go. On the right-hand side, DeWitt Road actually is one of our 3 mountain access, escarpment access roads. It is a one-way that goes up the hill. So once you commit, you're leaving Ward 10, and there's no coming back. There is a plateau. I don't know if it's visible. About halfway up the escarpment is what we refer to as the plateau, and it is a shelf, or if we were in Beamsville, they would call it a bench. And it's all developed up there. This was originally the ore farm on the right-hand side. On the left-hand side, this big white house, this is Gord Hewitson's house. There's Gord right there, tending to his garden. He's a retired McMaster professor, and all he does is look after that massive property by himself. He says he doesn't invest anything in the home, he's just in his gardens, because he knows that when he passes, they're just going to tear it down and build something bigger. So that's him. On the left-hand side here is the Salt Lake Community Center. This was originally the Stony Creek Alliance Church. It was purchased by the city about 10, 12 years ago. There's some programming in there, but here's the problem. If you Google Salt Lake Community Center, it does not come up. It's as if it doesn't exist. So that's something that we obviously need to fix and get some programming in there. It's also home to the Stony Creek Food Bank. It is on a transit route, which is good. It's a great location for future programming needs, and hope to be able to expand that. Now, Fruitland Road, we're just going past here on the left, that goes out to the QEW, and you'll notice as we go beyond Fruitland Road and we enter the new portion of Ward 10, this was formerly part of Ward 11. On either side, development just melts away, and we are once again in the country. On the left-hand side, this is all going to be developed over the next 10 years. This is part of the Stony Creek urban boundary expansion and the Fruitland Winona secondary plan. So this is already kind of a done deal. There is a thoroughfare, a major thoroughfare going through somewhere around here that will be called Gordon Dean Drive. It's going to be another arterial to handle some of the development pressures that are going to be taking place in the coming years. We're also coming up on the former Stony Creek City Hall, Stony Creek Municipal Center. The majority of the building is rented out by the RCMP, and it's a self-sustaining arrangement because I believe that they pay into an endowment to ensure that all future repairs and maintenance are covered. It's also home to the Stony Creek branch of the library. There used to be 2 libraries in the area, one in Winona, one in Stony Creek, was consolidated there in the early 2000s. It's also the end of transit, so that's where the bus stops and does not continue, and it disembarks into a Transcab system, and like Councillor Taddison, the Transcab system out here, it just doesn't work. So something that we'd like to take a strong look at is being able to extend the bus and have it continue a little further, and I'll later in the tour get to show you. Now on the right-hand side, everything that you see on the right-hand side is protected by the Niagara Escarpment Commission. This is all NEC protected land. And I'm not really an activist of any sort, but that's one that I would throw myself in front of a bulldozer for, I think, to protect those lands. Because it gives a clean, unobstructed view of the Niagara Escarpment. I'll also make note that we were talking about waterways and water courses and drainage and such. All of the water that cascades over the escarpment has to make its way to Lake Ontario, and there's a variety of water courses, some named, some recorded, some not, that make their way through this area. And of course on the left hand side will all be developed at some point, so there's going to be some concerns there. On your right hand side, there was an article in the Spectator recently about the E.D. Smith factory. The company has been sold to another investment firm in the United States. I believe this is the oldest continually operating factory in the city of Hamilton, and I would throw down that challenge to anyone to come up with an older operating factory. ED, well, let's go to war. Let's do it. I throw it down. 1882. Ernest Disraeli Smith had an overabundance of strawberries in his farms, and decided to make jam out of them, and the rest, as they say, is history. The original family farmstead is still on the site. and it is currently the cafeteria for employees. And why I make note of that is because there is always a sign in front of E.D. Smith. People, the company is in need of people, and they can't get enough people because there's no transit. But you will see people walking from the end of the bus route at Jones Road to the E.D. Smith factory in all types of weather down the sidewalks because they've given up on the Transcam system. On the left, Memphis Fire Barbecue Company, the best Southern style barbecue in the country, says I. They were featured on the Food Network's You Gotta Eat Here about 10 years ago, and if you see it in syndication, I'm the guy with no beard talking about how good my breakfast is. There's also the Innsville, the famous Innsville Hotel. This was a stopover in the 1930s. The Highway 8 was called the Queenston Highway. It was the only way to get from Toronto to Niagara Falls, and so you had a series of inns and taverns and hotels along the way that you would stop overnight because it was a long trek, and the Innsville is a remnant of that. As we're coming into Winona, my hometown, on the right-hand side is the Bel Air Survey, and it was the only survey in Winona, the only subdivision in Winona from about 1950 to about 1980, and since then it's continually, we've just kind of grown and grown and grown. The left-hand side is our Winona Community Center. It was the former Winona Public School. Councillor Brenda Johnson fought long and hard for the city to purchase this, and now, to the best of my knowledge, it is one of the highest used community centers within the city. Brenda seems to think it's number 2 in the city in terms of usage. Part of the problem that we're having is now, because it is so widely used, the physical design of a school doesn't necessarily necessitate good programming. So we've got some growing pains, and we'd like to be able to offer better programming, but the constraints of this 1980s style school are constraining us a little bit. So hopefully in some master plans we'll be able to grow effectively with the community. On the left-hand side, you can see the backs of some homes that were built in the 1990s, I'm going to say. And in behind that, I don't think we're going to be on Barton Street, so we're going to miss the home of the Winona Beach Festival with Winona Park. But in behind all these homes, those tall trees, that's Winona Park. The park was actually purchased by the community in the 1940s, 1950s, because they knew they needed a park, so they just rallied together, much like Mark was saying in Glanbrook. They made some donations, they raised some funds, and they built a park. And then there's this crappy little garden center on the left-hand side. It looks kind of shady.
How long has that been there?
You can see 650 trees that we unloaded last night in the dark. And I still smell like a pine freshener to this day, and the needles show up in the most unlikely places, and I'll just leave it at that.
Councillor, is that our float there?
That is, yeah. Councillor Francis, Councillor Clark, and myself are going to be in the Stony Creek Santa Claus Parade, and that's my wife's Jeep there. We're going to take the roof off, and the three of us are going to hang out as the three amigos from Stony Creek in the Santa Claus Parade. I think we're going left. Yes, we are. You get an idea of some of the old infrastructure. This road hasn't been updated since about 1930. I have a picture from the 1930s of my grandfather with a horse-drawn sleigh on this road, and it really hasn't changed since then. On the left, we're going to see the two plots that are going to be pulled out of the Greenbelt. This is 331 and 339 50 Road. This is 339 here. It used to be a plum orchard farmed by Mr. Albert Papazian, and it's been used as kind of a dumping ground for soil by the developer. It is adjacent to this development here called Foothills of Winona. You'll also note that suddenly we have a curb. This was done last year, but when they put in the curb, they took out the soft shoulder, which made it completely impossible for pedestrians to actually walk on the street, and now they have to walk in live lane traffic to get to here, which is the Winona Crossing development. I'm going to talk about that in a second, but on your right, all of this vacant land here, this is all zoned for employment lands, at least the bulk of it. And there is a push from the development community to flip this to residential. And so there's going to be some interesting conversations about the loss of employment land, first off, and then the impact of some of the high density development that's proposed to go here on the local infrastructure. Again, we have no sidewalks, we're going over a 50 road. We have 6 overpasses in Ward 10, and only one of them has sidewalks on either side to connect people on either side of the community. So if you want to walk from one side of the highway to the other, you're kind of taking your life into your own hands. And you can see on the right-hand side, towards the front of the bus, this is the Lake Point community. Originally, this was conservation land. It was owned by the Conservation Authority. On the far right-hand side, you see there's a little plot of land there called 1400 Baseline Road. And some returning council members may recall some conversations about the disposition of that land, and there'll be some ongoing conversations. The community's not particularly happy about some of the proposals there. Lake Point, as I said, was originally supposed to be conserved. I planted trees on that property there on your right-hand side when I was a Boy Scout as part of a reforestation effort, and then somehow there was a land swap made with the developer, and now we have Lake Point. When I was a kid, this was all farmland on the right-hand side. This is Anatomy Development, known as Montreal Circle. On the left-hand side was proposed for some kind of a condo development, but it flooded and stayed flooded for an extended period of time, so I think they've got some hydrological, if that's a word, they've got some water issues. This is Baseline Road. Baseline Road used to run the whole way through, and then when the overpass was built in the 1960s, because of course the QEW originally was an open access highway, it was not a controlled access highway, you could access it from any way. When they built the overpass, they cut Baseline in half, so this is the western portion of Baseline. This is Crnona Boulevard, not to be confused with Winona. Crnona. Goes the whole way down to the lake. And I don't know if we're going to go right or left, but we're going right. Oh, okay, then we're going to be able to kind of sort of see the Leona Gardens development proposal. And that will see 1,200 units added to a very small property at the end of the street that overlooks the lake. And of course, the existing community here, which you can see is quite low density, but also no sidewalks, no transit, and very low road capacity. There are some major concerns. Basically, there will be 4 towers varying in height from 15 to 28 stories that will be overlooking the lake, but also overlooking all of this existing community. So there's a lot of concerns about that. Speed bump. This is John Wilson Park on the right-hand side. John Wilson was an early settler in the area, and the site that the Leona Gardens proposal is on was, I can't remember the exact story, but basically John Wilson opened the hotel there or something like that. There was a hotel at the end of the street on the right-hand side where Leona Gardens is proposed. And during the 1800s, there was a steamship that used to come from Toronto, go across Lake Ontario, and people would vacation here in Winona. There's a number of cottages along the lakeshore. Actually, some of them still exist. And this was basically the Muskoka of Lake Ontario at some point. There was a big hotel on the site where Leona Gardens ended up. And you would take the steamship across the lake from Toronto, and you'd spend the weekend in Winona before heading back. All of this was built in the 1980s. I remember my sister was so excited. She was about 12 or 13 years old, because in Winona, when you were trick-or-treating and the houses were, half a kilometer apart, she thought she hit the jackpot when she came over here when this subdivision opened, and how much candy could you get, how quickly. And now it's one of our older developments. But you can see the characteristics when we talk about low density, ultra low density, and sprawl. I don't mind saying it. This is kind of sprawling. These are the sound walls. The hum of the QEW, it gets inside your bones. And so this is supposed to minimize the impact of the sound of the QEW. It goes all day, all night. Unless, it's actually interesting, if you come out your front door, your back door on Christmas Day, on Thanksgiving, on Good Friday, about the 3 times of the year that it's not, there's no sound. It's weird. It's like being in a different place. So as we go along on the lake shore, on your right-hand side, you can see the type of development that has been traditionally taking place in the Winona area. And on the left-hand side, you'll see the commercial industrial, whoops, there it disappeared behind the sound wall, which means you can't see it or hear it. On the right, and we'll see, we're going to pass a cyclist. This is actually considered a biking path lane, something or other. It's supposed to connect from the cycle trails in the Niagara region with the cycle trails at Confederation Park, and it kind of, I don't know, some work to be done there, right? Do you? You take your life into your own hands, I think. We'll see more development that's taking place on the right-hand side, or has taken place on the right-hand side, as all of these remaining farm properties were slowly gobbled up. We start to introduce a little bit of medium density. We consider it medium density. I know that if you're from Ward 1, you're looking at this saying, this is not medium density. This is nothing. So we have commercial, industrial on the left-hand side. That zone goes the whole way through to Barton Street. And then beyond Barton Street will eventually be fully developed as commercial. So we have this weird mix of the highway that divides the community into 2 parts, with residential on the furthest extremities on either side, and then a swath of industrial commercial down the middle. And there is no proper transit to service any of it. And a lot of the businesses along this area are having trouble attracting talent. Going back to the Winona Crossing development there, the city does, I believe, own 1 acre on that property that is intended to be developed as a transit hub. And so what I'd like to propose is that take the bus that ends at Jones Road at the Stony Creek Municipal Center, Old City Hall, currently surrounded by nothing in the middle of nowhere, and at least have it end somewhere. Let's bring it out and have it end at the Winona Crossing development. And if we're really keen, the GO station at Casablanca has GO Bus, and will eventually have full GO service. Perhaps we could have our HSR connect there to connect us to regional transit. I think that's the key. People want to go somewhere. Let's give them some options. On the right-hand side, this was one of the first developments in the kind of the Fruitland area. We're traveling back now out of Winona into Fruitland as we get closer to Fruitland Road. This, I believe it was a quarry at one point, and it was adjacent to the lake, so the developer basically just cut a hole and flooded the quarry and turned it into the Newport Yacht Club, which it's actually kind of a cool little neighborhood, because you can actually, there are people that will walk up the back of their house and get into their boat and off they go. So it's a pretty cool place. We're going to go over, I think we're going over Fruitland Road. No, we're in the left-hand turn lane. Apparently we're going to turn left. Oh, we're going to miss the triplets. That might have been intentional. So I'll have to talk about it really quickly. That's the triplets, as we refer to, is the New Horizon development on Francis Avenue. At one point would have been the tallest buildings in the city of Hamilton at 59 stories, I think, give or take. Would have far exceeded the height of the escarpment. Oh, we're going to be on the QE. Perfect. We'll get an abbreviated view of them. They are going to, in their current form, be twice as high as the existing buildings. There are some apartment-style buildings there, the Bayliner and the Shoreliner. some of the older developments in the area from the 1970s. And they are 18 and 20 or 22 stories respectively. And the new developments are coming in at, I think, 44 stories. So there's, again, some concerns for existing neighborhoods. They know that development is coming. They know that there's going to be a tower built there. I think the objection maybe is to the size and scale and scope, the appropriateness of in the existing community. Again, because there is no public transit, the roads are insufficient, the sidewalks don't connect to anything, and there isn't enough park space either. The community around Francis Avenue is known as Lakewood Beach or Community Beach, and I think there may even be a resident of that area on the bus somewhere. I don't know. He's hiding his head there. It's also home to the famous turtle ponds, and so we have turtles out here in Stony Creek as well, Alex. And a funny story about the turtle ponds. When I was the school board trustee, the school board actually owns one of the turtle ponds. It was intended to be a future school site, but obviously you can't build a school on a pond. And so we tried to convince the city to purchase it, and unfortunately the councilor at the time was not interested. Really quickly, here's the site of the triple towers with the triplets. It is a very small plot with a lot of density. Again, surrounded by nothing and entirely car dependent. The big hole in the ground is another tower that's going up. I think it is 18 stories. And everything empties to the west. So all residents here travel westward, they hop on the QEW, and you can see them all coming home at the same time on the left-hand side. You see the volume of traffic on the Queenie. They're all going to be getting off at Fruitland Road, 50 Road, Casablanca Boulevard, and then into Grimsby and into Beamsville, in fact. And we call it actually we have a nickname for it called the Grimsby Bubble. If you hop on the highway at about 6 o'clock, that's where everybody that started in Toronto is now. They're in Grimsby. And now we're in Ward 5. So I'm going to pass it over to Matt Francis.
Great job. Great job. So we just missed it, but there's a Phase 2 construction of our Confederation Park, which includes a cricket pitch and stands, grandstands, and a plaza, room for concessions, naturalized playground, I've got my notes here. A bunch of pickleball courts, which is really neat and a great asset for the city. This is a 93-hectare area, the Confederation Park, which runs from Grays Road all the way down to down Van Wagner's to the beach strip. Includes, obviously goes all along Lake Ontario shores, has the waterfront trail, which goes all the way down to the pier, which is a project that I'm also working on, need your help with, council, getting new amenities implemented at the pier for our community and getting access restored down there. We also have a great event, Road to Hope, run by Councillor Paul, which is raising a lot of money for great charities. It used to be a marathon, I guess it was run down the Red Hill Expressway. Now it's been moved to Confederation Park, which is a welcome opportunity, and does a lot of great things for us here. So I guess you can't really see much being on the highway here, but we're getting close to Ward 4, but this is still part of Confederation Park. Down here is Barangas on the beach. Hutches on the beach is just up here as well. Go-karts. Lots of things to do down here with your family and friends. In the summertime, we've got the bike share program down here as well. And if you want to come for a swim in the summertime, or actually on New Year's Day, you can do that as well, like I once did for the polar bear dip right behind Hutch's here.
Lakeland Pool's still open?
Lakeland Pool is still here. Would like to get some more lifeguards next summer. It was closed this summer because we didn't have enough lifeguards to staff it. Wild Waterworks, another one I have to mention really quickly before I hand this over to Councillor Wang. Same thing, staffing shortages, we need more lifeguards. Hours of operation greatly reduced, and also need your help as a council to get more funding for this, to get Wild Waterworks back up and running, or look at several options to transform Wild Waterworks. So I'll hand this over to Councillor Wang.
Thank you, Councillor Francis. We're here in the north end right now, and one of the biggest challenges here in the north end is actually to your right. AIM and Triple M are one of the newer investments that have come to the city, and we're very happy for their investment here. The challenge is that the neighborhood and the ward residents that are just on the other side of the highway are talking about fine particulate pollution. They're also talking about noise that's coming from the operations. So these are one of the challenges that I think that what we're going to see here in Ward 4. Ward 4 has a significant amount of different neighborhoods and communities, of which you can see to your right. We have some of our older industries, as you know, our National Steel Car, our Stelco, our DeFasco partners. They're big into some newer investments like green steel and green investment, and we definitely want to support that as we are talking about climate change and how the nature of Hamilton's industry is changing. We also do need to be mindful that they are neighbors to our residents. So it's trying to strike a fine balance between investment and growth, as well as livability and the community that it borders up against. So those are some of the challenges that I think that we as councillors may need to also consider, is that growth comes with some of those growing pains, and also how do we share this wonderful investment and these new opportunities with our residents, but also being mindful that there are a lot of challenges as this happens. Right now we are turning left onto Parkdale. Parkdale being one of our commercial corridors. It has been, it does have some light industrial here, but there are also opportunities with building up potentially small businesses that are here. What we'll see on the left-hand side is we're getting into the Rennie neighborhood and the Glow Avenue neighborhood. And again, some of the challenges here comes with how do we balance investment and growth as well as neighborly relations, and ensuring that we're being mindful for the way industry grows. We are coming along Glow Avenue, and actually one of the interesting things is that this area has traditionally been known as being a little bit of a food desert. There is very little very little access to large supermarkets or fresh foods. In fact, we are going to be coming up on the Glow Avenue Groceteria. That's coming up on the left-hand side. It's just coming up. But it is one of the few places in this whole neighborhood where residents can walk to and get fresh foods. It has also been mentioned in the newspaper that it is one of the best places for great cheap eats. So it's definitely something that we definitely want to consider. Great service, thank you. Yeah. So, and as you can see, the neighborhood is also changing. We are seeing significant turnover in terms of houses that are being torn down and rebuilt again. And here is off to your left is the Glow Avenue Groceteria. And in front, we are coming up on Woodward Avenue with the Woodward wastewater treatment plant, to which, if you check your itinerary, we are going to have a 30-minute tour that I will not be leading. So I'm pretty sure that our Director of Water, Nick Winters, will be jumping on at some point. We may have to ask him to tuck and roll as we're moving on to our next stops. But off in front of us and to your left, this super awesome building is a brand new investment. Director Nick will tell you how much it costs. But this is a very exciting opportunity because of the amount of investment that's coming into our wastewater. And also, if you travel a little further down Woodward, you'll hit the Hamilton Steam and Technology Museum, to which, please check it out. It's very awesome. In the summertime, they also have this like really cool model trains. And also, if you're a big Murdoch mystery fan like I am, the Steam and Technology Museum is where the Toronto Police Station is located, apparently. So.
We're doing a little changeover of the clerk.
Bye, Leisha.
Bye.
Thank you.
Oh, Director Nick is getting on board now.
This is Director of Hamilton Water, Nick Winters, and the City Clerk will be joining us.
Oh, thank you for joining us.
Is that my seat? Okay.
And Director Nick Winters, please. I told them all the things about water.
All right.
Thanks.
I will pass it off to you.
You want to sit here?
How far behind are we?
20 minutes.
20 minutes. Okay. Well, I'll try and make it quick.
Yeah, if you could do 15 maybe.
Yeah, I will. I'll give you the speed tour. So welcome everyone to the Woodward facility. Just briefly before we pull up to the security gate here, a great chance to take a look at our new electrical power center, which is just reaching substantial completion presently. The staff design with the logo for the City of Hamilton, that was a staff suggestion during the design phase, which was a great suggestion. It's a beautiful facility. And it is that facility that provides full backup power for both the Woodward water treatment, which is that side of the facility, we'll go through it, and the Woodward wastewater treatment facility, which we'll go through as well. Sorry, I'm just going to connect with our driver for 1 second. Got a separate map here. So we're going to pull up to the gate here.
So glad I have known how to do this part of the tour.
We're going to come in.
Hi there. To your left, there's a giant ink ship. Straight ahead.
There's some water. There's more water.
There's a giant investment. There's clean water. There's dirty water.
This is where the dirty water, I think, goes.
So many communications, that makes a lot of sense.
Is that the real
I can see the
well?
ridge. I know what it means.
That's right.
Is that the well? Like,
Director, is this the well?
On the right-hand side of the bus, that is our brand new main pumping station for the wastewater facility. At a cost of just over $87 million, it reached substantial completion just this fall, and it's part of our Woodward Upgrades program. And behind me here on the left side of the bus, as we drive by, this is our brand new biosolids management facility. It's a private public partnership, so it's run by a corporation called Synagro on a 30-year project agreement with the city. They're going into year 3 next year. They take dewatered biosolids from our wastewater facility. They turn it into a fertilizer-grade product called EcoPearl, which is distributed. They're in charge of all the marketing as well. I do have a slide in tomorrow's budget presentation about some of the challenges with that facility that we've experienced, which we've communicated some of to City Council previously. The new main pumping station, I mentioned it's a beautiful facility, part of our $350 million Woodward's Upgrade program, which we'll highlight on this tour. That receives all the incoming wastewater from the entire City of Hamilton and lifts it so it can go through our wastewater treatment plant process. As we go through the plant here, we're following the flow of wastewater through the facility. So the main pumping station lifts it, and then it pumps it over to where we're headed now, which is our Headworks facility. And that facility has some really large screens in it that remove trash and things that really shouldn't be in the sewer system but always are. The construction you see on your right, that is where our former main pumping station was, and they're in the final stages of filling in that excavation, and then there's some final landscaping and that project will be done. So as the wastewater flows through our headworks, which we're following that path, we inject ferric chloride for phosphorus treatment. It assists with that. We'll pass some, we just passed some tanks. And this is our building with our screens right on the right-hand side here, followed by underground tanks that remove grit from the wastewater. And you can stop here. On the left-hand side is what we call primary treatment. So very large tanks. The wastewater flows from the headworks into these tanks, and it slows down. Wastewater will spend approximately between 8 and 12 hours in these tanks, and it allows heavy things to settle to the bottom of the tank, light things like oil and grease to float to the top, and both of those things are removed. The sludge from the bottom is sent through our sludge handling. The oil and grease from the top is sent to landfill as scum, although it is an energy source that we're looking into in the future. And then right up to the corner and hang left. There is, we've communicated to council previously that after the Woodward Upgrades program finishes next year, there are some capital needs remaining at this facility. One of them is the rehabilitation of our primary clarify tanks 1 through 8, which we just drove by. They're the oldest primary tanks at the facility here. And that's something you'll see show up in my budget presentation tomorrow. So, we just passed on the right-hand side of the bus the City of Hamilton's Environmental Laboratory. We are lucky in the City of Hamilton that we have our own municipal laboratory. It provides excellent value for us that a lot of our peers across Canada really don't have the benefit from. It's an award-winning facility, fully accredited through the CALA Association. It's inspected rigorously both by CALA and the Ministry of the Environment at least twice a year, and that team really does a great job to support Hamilton Water, a lot of city programs and a lot of partner programs as well. So I'll kind of follow the line. I'm going to take the road on the right-hand side here, all the way to the back, until you can't go any farther, and then you can. Yes. So we're going from the primary treatment area of the wastewater treatment plant to secondary treatment. And secondary treatment is really where the magic happens in wastewater treatment, if I can characterize it that. And we're actually going to stop on the other side of these tanks, and I'll show you there. But secondary treatment is where we use biology, so bacteria, to break down solids and nutrients in wastewater. Naturally, they use it for growth. We grow those bacteria. And they also help to create more settlable solids that are removed from the wastewater treatment plant process. Once we get through secondary treatment, the wastewater goes to our final or our secondary clarifiers, which we're just passing on the left-hand side. Again, same thought process in wastewater treatment. We slow the wastewater down. It provides time for heavy things to settle out to the bottom of the tank. In this case, there aren't a lot of floatable material, so we're really just talking about removing sludge at this point in time before we take that secondary treated effluent, and now it goes to our tertiary treatment facility. Prior to October, this would have been the final step in our treatment process for the liquid side.
Geese are clearly enjoying the nice clean water.
Is it down the stop sign or down the past? That right there?
Yes.
The entrance?
Just past the one and only dog.
So we just passed a left there because I was talking.
There's no beep on this bus?
I'm sure it's out there. You just can't hear it. Gives you a chance to enjoy our wildlife that we have at the wastewater treatment plant.
You didn't tell them about the one and only dog park.
That's outside the facility. That's a parks thing. It's Carlisle also talked about that. So we're going to go up this road. We'll just wait for this gator to pass. As you can see, it is a tight facility to get around.
That bus?
So we're going to go up to that truck up there. We're going to hang it right.
Like hang right where that truck is?
Yeah, there's no way that we're gonna be able to.
Well, I'll run up.
In there?
I don't think I make that.
I can't make that turn.
No, you can't.
So my back.
Can we go?
No, that's okay.
Just give me a second.
No, we don't. We can't even turn like that.
Like a 5 or 6 meter.
Oh, sorry. Go straight. Sorry, I don't spend a lot of time driving around this facility.
Yeah, there's.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, please back up, sir.
I think we win.
I know. Oh, there's another one.
So part of our tertiary treatment upgrade project, which is scheduled for substantial completion early in 2023, they're working on 2 of our secondary clarifiers.
Step up, please.
Up here?
See it. Yeah, you're right from my ear.
And so this is part of that construction. They are just finishing off some deficiency work on one of our secondary clarifiers and aeration tanks that unfortunately occurred during the capital project. And they're laying down some asphalt.
Oh, yeah.
Good job, Selena.
Yes!
Maureen always tells me that bus drivers are the best drivers of any type of vehicle.
That'll make sure you can have that fight.
Anything buffer up.
Yeah.
But
Oh, there's 2 inches to spare.
I've been right those lights, so I'm just going to just
So I talked about the aeration process. Very simply, I mentioned we use bacteria to treat the wastewater. We pump oxygen into those tanks to help grow that bacteria and keep them alive. The food is the wastewater. So you saw it a little bit coming down the other side, all the bubbling on the top of the aeration tanks. That's that oxygen that we pump in. Primary treatment is on our left now. Secondary treatment, being aeration, is on our right. We're going to head up to the intersection. We're going to take a right. So we're heading now to our brand new tertiary treatment facility. It is in the process of performance testing. Flow started being processed by that facility in October, late October of this year. So it hasn't been up and running presently. For very long, but it is operating presently. Right now, all of the wastewater that's being received by this facility is going through tertiary treatment. That facility, it uses disc filters. Council's seen some pictures of that previously, as an extra filtration step to remove solids. It's also got some chemical additions in it to help with polishing for phosphorus removal. But really, the more solids you remove in the wastewater treatment plant process, the better you're doing from a treatment perspective. Go all the way down through the stop sign, and after this brand new building on the left, there's a road that we're heading left on. So the tertiary treatment facility is up here on our left. And as part of that construction, we also built a brand new chlorine contact chamber, which is on the right behind this building. After we treat the effluent at Woodward here, we disinfect it using chlorine. We remove the chlorine, and then we discharge it to the natural environment. And as we hang a left here, behind me is the brand new outfall to the Red Hill Creek that we constructed as part of this project. And that's where all of the treated wastewater from Woodward now enters Red Hill Creek. So a lot of care and effort went into design choices for these facilities. They do look great, and they're all following a similar architectural theme. Not things that I look for. I'm always looking for process performance, but certainly we have a talented team who does take care of the details, which is excellent to see. is foam. The road that we're coming up to is the dividing line between the Woodward wastewater treatment plant and the Woodward water treatment plant. So the wastewater facilities, all of them are on the left of this road. The water facilities, all of them are on the right-hand side of the road. You can see the iconic Hamilton Sphere. We're going to go all the way past the stop sign, so you can't go any farther. But we're just going to stop in front of these tanks here. That holds methane gas in it that is recovered from our treatment process. We do use that methane gas to power a cogeneration unit for electricity. We generate just over 4,000 megawatts of electricity a year from this facility. We also use it to create green natural gas. So there's a facility at the very front of this plant that converts that dirty methane into clean natural gas. It's injected into the natural gas grid. We do have a revenue stream for that, although that contract for the sale of that is coming to a close in the very near future. And we're going to have to re-look at the business case for the use of that natural gas. So we're going to stop here for a sec. On the left-hand side, I'm just going to talk very briefly about solids processing at a wastewater treatment plant. So all the solids that are recovered during the treatment process that I flew you through, they come to these digesters. We have what are called primary digesters and secondary digesters. And the sludge from the process remains in those tanks for upwards of 30 days. And there's additional biological processes that happen in there. Some using aerobic bacteria that like oxygen, some using anaerobic bacteria that don't like oxygen. And they're breaking down additional nutrients, this time in the solids phase of the wastewater treatment process. They're creating that methane as part of their biology. The solids from these digesters, once it's finished, they're dewatered, and that becomes the feedstock for the biosolid facility that I talked about right at the beginning of this tour. You go all the way up, essentially to that big tower, and hang right. And the building on our left that we're driving past here, that's our thickened sludge building. That's where we're removing water from the digested solids before it becomes a feedstock for the biosolids plant. So we're going to head over to the water treatment plant. Right. On the left here is our surge tower. So if we ever have any issues, and we have had them with power outages or things like that, the water that's out in the water distribution system flows downhill back to the plant. And so the purpose of that tower is to absorb that pressure surge as much as it can and prevent damage to infrastructure here at the Woodward Water Treatment Plant. We're going to follow along the left-hand side. The building directly in front of us is our water filtration building. Originally constructed in 1960, we did undertake a structural renovation that completed in 2012. So that was looking at redoing the building envelope, structural integrity of the roof, as well as some architectural concepts inside the building. We go all the way around to the right. So we're heading to really what I consider the start of the water treatment process, so that I can show you kind of two sides. Where's the water coming from, and then where does it go? There's always lots of this facility. Yep, around this way. Yes. We're going to stop it just down there at the end. Yes, just before the curve. So what I want to show you, and we're going to stop here momentarily, is on the left-hand side of the bus, you can see our green and white elliptical building. You can just catch the top of it. You may want to pull forward just a little bit. That's our low-lift pumping station. From that building, we have 3 water intakes that go out into Lake Ontario, and they run about a kilometer into the lake at a depth of about 13 feet. That's where the drinking water for the city of Hamilton comes from. We pump it through that low-lift pumping station. There's some very large screens there that remove debris from the lake. that tends to happen, fish sometimes, things of that nature. And then that pumping station pumps that water up to where we're standing. On the right-hand side of the bus, these are our sedimentation tanks. So we add a coagulant polyaluminum chloride to the incoming lake water. It helps bind solids together. So the small solids become bigger solids, and then they settle out in these tanks. Again, the process is slow the water down, things that are heavy settle out. That's a key tenet of water and wastewater treatment. We add chlorine at this step as well. That's for primary disinfection purposes at this facility. A little bit odd in today's day and age with water treatment plants, but it was the design of this facility. It's a little bit older. That's one of the things that we're talking to the Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks about. How do we build to some newer considerations that didn't exist from a science perspective when this facility was constructed. So you go all the way around. The water treatment plant is split essentially into two halves. So we have two treatment trains with sedimentation flocculation tanks, two sets of drinking water filters, both able to operate independently so that parts of the process can be taken offline for maintenance, major rehabilitation, and renewal. So we're pulling up to the back of the filtration building, and we're going to hang a right. On your left-hand side is Red Hill Creek, flowing right past the facility. This facility is within the floodplain of Red Hill Creek, which is why it's built at an elevation. Yep, certainly. I'll take direction well. We're going to just stop the other side of this wall here. Maybe we can get the whole bus past the wall. So as I mentioned, on the right-hand side is our drinking water filter building. We have 24 filters in there, 2 trains of 12. We use a dual media filter, so we have sand and then we have granular activated carbon. Water comes in the top, just like a Brita filter, goes through the filters, clean water is collected at the bottom. The granular activated carbon helps to absorb things like taste and odor compounds, biological compounds that are in the partially treated drinking water, which we didn't have prior to the late 90s. So before that, there were a lot more taste and odor complaints in the Hamilton water distribution system. On the left-hand side, these are our chlorine rail cars. Council's heard from me previously. You hear from me again about the cost increases, in particular associated with this chemical, which is critical both for our drinking water treatment as well as our wastewater treatment processes here. And you'll hear it in our budget presentation tomorrow. The building on the left here, that's our chlorine building. So we take that liquid chlorine, we convert it into gas using evaporators, and we use gas to chlorinate the drinking water, both the finished drinking water as well as we pump that over to the wastewater treatment plant side. There's a separate evaporator over there, so we pump liquid to disinfect the wastewater. In front of our chlorine building, we have 2 additional buildings. One is our fluoride building. So we use hydrofluorosilicic acid. We add it to the finished drinking water for fluoridation per our public health directions. And then the final building on the left-hand side here is our phosphoric acid building, our corrosion control building. So we inject phosphoric acid, food grade, into the treated drinking water. It dissolves, becomes orthophosphate, and that orthophosphate is a chemical inhibitor that's used in the water distribution system. It adheres to the inner walls of metallic pipes and prevents the water from being able to attack those metallic walls and dissolve them. So it's a key part of our lead prevention program. It certainly helps with other metallic substances in the drinking water, such as copper and iron as well. And of course, we've got a phosphoric acid delivery that's just either starting or finishing off here, but our bus driver is going to make it through no problem. And as we pass the phosphoric acid building, the corrosion control building here on the left, you'll be able to see the tops of our clear wells. So underground tanks, 2 of them, big underground tanks here at the Woodward water treatment plant. This is where the finished drinking water is stored at this facility. And if we just stop right here, right in front of the bus is our high lift pumping station. So the finished drinking water comes from these clear wells. We have 6 pumps in our high lift pumping station here, and that pumps that finished water out into the water distribution system. We have 21 water pumping stations, 13 underground reservoirs, 7 water tanks, and for the most part, this facility feeds all of that, except for our 4 communal well systems. So certainly a lot of infrastructure is required to get treated drinking water from this facility to the far ends of Ward 15 in Waterdown, or the far ends of Ancaster or Binbrook. I know you've been out to most of those places today, but this is where it all happens. So we're going to go back up the way we came in. So up and to the left, we're back at it. So that is the Penny Tour. I just want to take an opportunity to plug the dedicated staff that operate and maintain all of these facilities, 24/7, 365. We talk about emergencies that happen that are public facing from time to time. When we don't often talk about the things that happen at this facility and others that don't become emergencies because we catch them in time, we fix them in time, and they're never a story. And I can tell you that those outweigh the number of issues that the public see, probably at least 20-fold on an ongoing basis, and they really do great work. Just as we leave the facility here, we're going to go back with the came right past this first one, right, go out. On our left-hand side here, this green infrastructure, that's our biogas purification unit. So that creates that clean natural gas that is discharged out to the grid. So that is it for me. I hope I didn't take too long.
We're good.
It was a Penny Tour. It's a pleasure to see everybody on the bus today. Looking forward to seeing you all at General Issues Committee tomorrow for our budget presentation. And certainly this will give you an opportunity to put your mind to some of the things that we're going to talk about during our presentations.
All right. We're going to pause here and let Nick go on his merry way, as well as one member of the media is going to hop off as well.
I can take that drawing for you. It's just
Yes, you can.
I should probably take so much. Sorry
Oh,
for
you're
the
welcome.
correction.
Oh, no, that's all right. We got through it.
Thank you
That's
so
all
much.
that matters.
Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thank you.
I got 6 hours. We're waiting on a member of the media.
I'm a big fan
We're
of
collecting their belongings.
It's kind of a big deal, eh?
Yeah. Well, I've taken a tour of this before, so I've heard a lot.
Sorry.
So used to this stuff. Take care. Oh, sorry.
Thanks so much. Have a great one.
Thank you. It was nice meeting you. Nice meeting you. Take care. You as well. Am I back on?
You are.
Just going to get Matthew back seated.
The mic is off, so whenever you're ready, just push it down. Okay.
Ward 7. I like your Ward 7.
So let's get back to the Ward 4 tour. Thanks, everybody. And thank you to our bus driver for navigating those very scary hairpin turns. So here we are on Woodward Avenue, and as we're heading up towards our next sort of like destination area, I do want to give you a little more background around Ward 4. Ward 4 is being one of the, it's a very different ward where there are lots of different economic levels and socioeconomic levels in terms of the residents that live here. Ward 4 is probably one of the Ward 4, Ward 3 areas are probably one of the last attainable housing areas. So you could feasibly get a single detached home with a front yard, backyard On average, it could be as low as 400,000 to as high as 900,000. So the fact is, it depends on the area. It depends on the type of home that you're looking for. Here in the north end, I would say that the north end is dramatically changing. On the right hand side, you'll see that the waterworks, this new townhouse system, has come in, and it's beautiful on the one side, and then you have older homes on the other side of the street. Ward 4 is also a higher amount of population of the Indigenous community. We do have the Hamilton Regional Indian Center that is located on Ottawa Street, and it's a great partnership with the YWCA for their Putnam home. Also, what we're coming up is Melvin Avenue, and where we're going to see a significant amount of apartment buildings, and it's also home to McQuestion Urban Farms and the Bindigan Wellness Center. So that will be a new master plan that will include primary care facilities as well as affordable housing for the Indigenous community. What was also kind of interesting several years ago was if you go up Woodward, you'll see the 7-Eleven that's right on the corner of Woodward and Melvin. That has traditionally been talked about a lot about food deserts because, again, it is one of the only sort of spaces where residents can walk to get fresh foods. That's 7-Eleven. And it's been said that 7-Eleven is the most highest revenue of 7-Elevens in at least Ontario, but I'm not sure how far reaching. Welcome to Barton Street, and I'm sure everyone has heard about Barton Street being the winner of the CAA worst roads in Canada, Ontario, definitely in Hamilton. So this is, I'm happy to say that I saw that we have opportunities for fixing up Barton Street, but it's a challenge these days right now. As we make our left, we will be going up Parkdale again. Parkdale, and off to the right-hand side is Mahoney Park. So Mahoney, if you're a baseball fan, they have the Cardinals, so some of the best baseball in Hamilton. On your left-hand side, you'll see Parkdale Landing and some of the Indwell investments here. This is where there are a mix of different affordable housing options, including several roomed apartments. And actually, one of the interesting things that Indwell has partnered up with our Hamilton Public Library to create a third living space called the Parkdale Library. So you'll see that right on the corner there. When it comes to our commercial corridors, Parkdale being a great example of this. Actually, if we were to turn left, you'd see Britannia, and that's at the very end of Britannia is where you'll see the Bindigan Wellness Center. So it's off at the old St. Helens School. And if you do get a chance in the summertime, go out there and check out their market days because they always sell some of their amazing produce. Along Parkdale, one of the, I think, opportunities is for us to look at how are we revitalizing some of these commercial corridors, and as we're building up, how do we build up more community vibrancy, including small businesses and small business resiliency? How are we building more walkable areas for our residents to walk to different amenities? Since the demographic has been shifting, we've been seeing more young families move into this neighborhood. As well, how are we balancing that with older residents that haven't moved out, but we would like to see that they age in place and age successfully in their homes? So thinking very critically about how we are delivering public health and how are we helping the seniors and our communities grow and age successfully here in Hamilton. So here we're coming up onto the new Roxborough development. This is This is a great public-private partnership between Carriage Gate and, there was a lot of different companies that were associated with this. Over to the left here is that we're getting into some of the City Housing Hamilton older stock. Yep, going along Reed. So we're coming up on the new Roxborough development. And unfortunately, I don't have all of the stats in place for the Roxborough development, but this is a wonderful investment from leftover from Sam Marilla's time, where he's really spearheaded how we look at affordable housing within our communities. Off to the left, you'll see brand new townhouse complexes, which I am told that most have been pre-sold and that they will be move-in ready in the coming months. In front and to the left, you'll see the black and gray building, black and white gray building. That is our new City Housing Hamilton investment, 103 units, with units that could be anywhere from studios to 3-bedroom, sometimes 4-bedroom apartments. Some of those are also ready-made accessible so that they have built-in accessibility features. Off to the left-hand side, we may not be able to see it, but there is a giant hole in the ground. And that giant hole is actually a very deliberate investment by the developers to create stormwater drainage as well as geothermal for 3 new projects, I think 4 new projects, 2 of which will be rental units and 2 of which will be condo towers. So off to the left, it's pretty exciting to be able to see this giant hole, really, honestly, because of the amount of stormwater that we want to, that they will be creating value and benefit for the neighboring community. And, we're gonna see a better picture of the giant hole, guys. It's off to the left-hand side. And giant hole. Look at that. It's very impressive, honestly. So here we are, we're just gonna be passing over into Ward 5. Oh no, we're going up the mountain. Are we going up the Red Hill?
I messed up, sorry, we're going around. We're going up the hill.
We are going up the hill. We're going up the Red Hill, to which myself, Councillor Francis, and Councillor Clark are sitting on the Red Hill Valley Stewardship. Councillor Francis, do you want to talk about any of this area?
Are we doing a U-turn?
Yes, we are. We're doing a U-turn.
You will.
Oh. On Queenston in Ward 4, there is also a wonderful little bakery called Sam's Bakery.
Yeah!
They also make delicious cannolis.
My grandma used to live on our Woodman Drive. Right?
Mayor Horvat's grandmother used to live in this area, so. Also in Ward 4, there is an excellent little breakfast place called Bedrock Bistro. I will turn it off. Unless there's anything else we want to talk about. Turn on the barrel. No, there's a little. Yeah, there's a.
While we're turning around, I'm stealing the microphone. This is about as far away from Ward 10 as we possibly could be, but I forgot. While we were there, I was just so excited to show off my crappy garden center. That we still have a considerable agricultural component to our ward, and I just wanted to highlight that briefly. And if we had been there and we'd had more time, we have 2 award-winning wineries. Leaning Post on the they're both actually located across the street from each other. Leaning Post is on the north side of Highway 8, right at the Grimsby border, and Puttycombe Estate Winery On the right-hand side, along with the Puttycomb cidery, if you prefer cider. Brock Puttycomb is a little younger than me, nice guy. Decided why not turn all of his apples and pears into something more exciting. So he's done that. And we have 7 active orchards. They grow crops ranging from peaches, apples, pears, grapes, of course, and several other things, sweet cherries and such. So we still have an active agricultural component, and it seems weird talking about farms as we're driving through this particular area, but yet we are.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Councilor Pete. Does anybody want to talk about the Red Hill at all?
No.
No? Okay. Councilor Jackson, come on up. Do you want to?
Either now or when we get to the top.
Oh, okay.
Whatever.
It's up to you if you want to. Yeah, you guys should come up.
Shannon, are we hitting 6 next? Please?
Yes.
Oh, we are? Hey. All right. Finally.
I will. Oh, you gotta turn off.
Turn off?
Turn on, sorry, turn on. It's already there. Turn it on.
Thank you.
Councilor Jackson. Councilor Jackson.
No, I don't want to sit. I'll stand.
Hey,
Okay.
look at your view though. They can't see your view.
Oh.
Perfect.
How's here?
That's good.
Okay. The applause was terrible. So it's all right. It's okay. I haven't started yet. Okay. How about for a wonderful bus driver, Selena? Just remember who got you the loud applause, Selena. Okay, thanks. Okay, so we're heading up the Red Hill Valley Parkway. And I was a very strong supporter of the Red Hill Valley Parkway. And it now, with the truck route master plan that has just been approved by the previous council, it is now part of the new ring road concept that is taking more heavy 18-wheeler trucks, 5+ axles, off of the lovely downtown streets and neighborhoods. And so this Red Hill Valley Parkway, along with the link across the mountain east to west, in my humble opinion, has served its many purposes, including being an important transportation corridor for many reasons: environmental, goods and services, transportation, investments in our community, and helping to ease a lot of the heavy trucks going up even our escarpment passes, like the Kenilworth up in my area. So the Red Hill Valley Parkway, of course, was opened in '07, costed about $400 million, of which the province ended up splitting 50-50 of the cost with the city. And the Lincoln Alexander had been open 10 years previously, and that was all built by the former regional government of Hamilton Wentworth at the time. Of course, there's been lots of talk about, for some who have been following this road, have been on council for a while, or who have gotten on council now newly, but have, I'm sure, followed the whole topic and debate. Originally was supposed to be, both roads, Red Hill and Link, were supposed to be 6 lanes, but given the government's decisions of the days, provincially in the 90s and thereafter, the regional government, which I was on in the 90s, we decided at least to get something open within the budget that we had. Hence, we at least got 4 lanes open, rebuilding the Lincoln Alexander Parkway, and opened by the fall of 1987. 10 years later, we got this Red Hill Valley Parkway open with at least the 4 lanes, so that it could at least take lots of volume of traffic off of our lovely residential streets. And the projection originally for both roads when they opened was about, give or take, 40,000 vehicles a day. It is accommodating over 70,000 vehicles a day now. So obviously has done a great job in taking lots of traffic off away from our lovely neighborhoods and providing quality of life. So Councillor Clark and I now, Councillor now Huang, Councillor Francis, Councillor Clark, and myself, if you will, the Red Hill Valley Parkway kind of cuts through our 4 wards, and Councillor Clark's coming up here where we are to the intersection at Paramount Stone Church. The Red Hill Valley Parkway and the Upper Red Hill Valley Parkway are the border between Ward 9, Councillor Clark, and myself, Ward 6. And the Upper Red Hill Valley Parkway, I think, has been open about 5 years now. That was something, again, I strongly supported, a logical extension from the Red Hill being open to provide the continued goods and services up through to Rymo Road, and that was phase 2. And then phase 3, which is, I believe, on the capital budget between the next 5 to 10 years, talks about the Upper Red Hill Valley Parkway zigzagging along Rymo, going along the east side of Glover's Road, all the way up to 20 Road and Dickinson Road across all the way to the airport. That's the overall master plan for it. As you can see, commercial development has exploded in this area, and the residential housing as well. And I understand how some people feel, but the migration that has come from, I don't have to tell any of you, you're all smart enough to know, the migration that's come from the GTA primarily over the last 10 to 15 years, wanting to live in our city, but still maybe having to work in the GTA, many of them, with the opening of Red Hill and the Link and Upper Red Hill, many of them have been purchasing what they consider to be at least affordable homes for themselves, given the Toronto, Mississauga, Oakville market that they previously came from. So now we're starting in the heart of what my East Mountain community considers to be a very desirable place to live, work, and recreate. I've often said the East Mountain Ward 6 community will never be Oakville or Grimsby, but we always are very possessive and protective of being a very desirable place to live within the greater wonderful city of Hamilton. This is right in the heart of the Red Hill Business Park here. We're going to turn down Pritchard Road. Oh yeah, is Tevia still with us? Oh yeah, so the Spectator moved into my ward. Yeah, no, it's okay, Tevia, don't worry about your story today. But anyways, they moved into, there they are, the Hamilton Spectator from the decades they were on Fred Street, moved into this industrial condo here off Pritchard Road. Now, Pritchard Road going over the overpass here, on the right-hand side, the last 3 years we got a beautiful multi-use trail built. You'll just see east of where we're driving here, and it crosses over here at this point where this individual, this walker, is going right now. The light should have come on, but that's okay. And this trail, which just opened 3 years ago, connects to the pedestrian bridge over the Link that connects over to the trails along Stone Church Road. I have learned from when I was honored and started over 30 years ago, people then, I might say, more were concerned about income, enhancing their social economic well-beings, the extra car in the driveway. But as the years have gone along, and what I'm pointing out today, primarily two prestigious areas, East Mountain residents, top of mind now is quality of life, social recreational amenities, that they want to have healthy, active living for generations to come. Yes, Mayor Horvath.
Was that a parking area for people that were going to use the trails?
That's a parking area. So we have 3 parking areas, Mayor Horvath. One at the dead end of Mud Street there. One you'll see here off Arbor Road to my left, and then one at the top of Albion Falls. So we're right along Albion Falls. Real fast history here. Sorry if I'm yelling too much, City Clerk. I just saw you plugging your ears. That's okay. Anyways, so we're coming around Albion Falls. We had to put all this high 6-foot you're in the wrong place there, sir. Shouldn't be trespassing. Anyways, we put this extra fencing along here because in 2016 we peaked with 30 rope rescues at Albion Falls alone. Forget about Spencer Gorge, Twos, Webster's. Forget about all the rest, Devil's Punch Bowl. We had 30 rope rescues here. Finally had to take action. Council of the day helped me, $75,000. We put extra fencing, put some bylaw officers in place for enforcement, put some directional signs. But the good news is that with the past council support, we've got a couple of $1 million in place to build a lovely platform stairway from where we just left the top of the brow to make its way in a staggered way and curl in front of the Albion Falls with a cantilever right in front of it. I want to have a meeting though. There's 100 homes here. I want to have a community meeting early next year because I want to make sure we get ahead of any potential spillover issues. I love access. I hated closing access to the falls, but I want to make sure in terms of spillover parking, debris on people's lawns, I want to get ahead of it before we actually begin construction. So thank you to the last term of council. Mohawk Sports Park, very prestigious park with a multiple use of active sports, organized sports. The famous Mohawk 4-Ice Center is here. By the way, when the Mohawk 4-Ice Center was built about 18 years ago, they wanted to go taller. The councillor, who happened to still be here in that area, said, no, I don't want to be taller than the forested area along Mohawk Sports Park. And to the credit of New Stadia, this is a private-public partnership, the only one of an arena owned by the city of Hamilton. We still own it, but in a private-public partnership with New Stadia. They kept it at the height level they did. It is so popular year-round, even in summertime for tournaments, old-timers hockey. And they make money. The city has made money. We debentured $15 million 18 years ago to build it. They paid it off. They make money at a certain threshold, and we get a certain percentage of that. Now, coming around to Mountain Brow Boulevard, we're going to turn right here, Shannon. Wonderful, Shannon. Thank you. Thanks, Selena. So, I love, long before the term civic engagement came around, and I get it. I'm with the modern group and everything. I get it. Long before the word civic engagement came along, I love setting up what I call a tri-party approach to getting projects and programs built on the East Mountain. Tri-party being citizens, working with city departments and my office, setting up citizen committees and or task forces. Take a look along the brow here, folks. Thank you to the last 2 terms of council. This is a $5 million multi-use recreational trail. I can tell you originally I was burned in effigy by some of the homeowners along here because they wanted no change whatsoever to the old sneaky rural road that was here, that was in terrible condition. You couldn't walk along the escarpments edge, you'd fall over. It was that dangerous. Anyway, for 2 years we worked together with city staff and came up First Street in Hamilton. For all you strong environmentalists in this bus, I know you're much stronger than me, many of you environmentalists. First residential street in Hamilton with solar panels. Notice them, please. That was an insertion by the Task Force Citizens Committee. Yeah, okay. That applause is for the Citizens Committee. The iron gate, the decorative but protective iron gate they wanted as well. The multi-use trail that you can see accommodates both walkers and cyclists combined.
And dogs.
And dog walkers too, Mayor Horvath. Thank you very much. Lovely laybys here as well. You can see some of the investments along the residential side. You can tell the difference in some of the original homestead of 50, 60 years ago versus some of the new mansions that have been built. And I'm just very happy that people have just gravitated to this area, enjoying again the many amenities and the quality of life that they enjoy here on the East Mountain.
There's lots of people walking up back and forth.
There used to be a dribble of a few people prior to the multi-use recreational trail being built, Mayor Horvath. There are now hundreds and hundreds of people weekly that use this trail and enjoy it immensely.
What's the lesson that we could take from that?
And by the way, Councillor Maureen Wilson, who I've always suspected, loves exploring up here on the East Mountain. She tried to engage me, I think it was in her Jane's Walk one time. That was for a worthy cause. And so I know that Councillor Maureen Wilson as well has a great heart for all these wonderful amenities that help our citizens.
Build it and they will come. That's the lesson.
Help our citizens to enjoy a healthier way of life. Oh, so here we are. This is connected to the East Mountain Escarpment Stairs that goes from Councillor Francis's ward at the bottom of the Kenilworth up to my ward. The stairs were built about 12 years ago. $500,000. Got the Niagara. Ward 4.
You got changed.
At the bottom of Ward 4 and maybe off a little bit off to Ward 5. Anyways, it was about 12 years ago, built for $500,000. Okay, well, the rest of you wards, you can put your hands up as well. That's fine. You can join me. So, anyways, it was built. And again, there was a petition against Jackson, get him defeated because, I hate to say this, because some Mountain. They just didn't want people from other parts of the city to come up to the East Mountain, and now that's all kidding aside. Anyways, the petition went nowhere. The NEC approved it. I'm so proud. And we had families who led the petition sheepishly come up to me over the years and say, Councillor Jackson, my granddaughter uses it in her phys ed class. I'm very sorry for the opposition we put up at the time. Anyways, so that hooks into the Eastbound Escarpment Trail stairs and the rail trail. So some of the colleagues talked about the rail trail earlier. Councillor Taddison did, all the way up from Glanbrook. That rail trail runs all the way to Caledonia, all through the East Mountain area, Mohawk Sports Park, and runs right to the bottom of the Winter Street stairs as well. Now, that was phase 1. Phase 2, which has been approved again by the past term of council. Thank you very much to the returning councillors. Thank you very much. New members of council, I know you won't do anything to alter that. Thank you. Anyways, phase 2 is going to, so right here, what you saw in phase 1, phase 2, we're going to pedestrianize the curb lane here, pedestrianize it, take away vehicular traffic, go all the way around the Kenilworth Loop, and pedestrianize on the resident. So the 4 lanes will become 3, right to Upper Ottawa, which is the next light, and then crossing over Upper Ottawa, we'll continue along the escarpment edge all the way to Mountain Drive Park. That's phase 2, mimicking and replicating what we did with phase 1. Thank you, Councillor Taddison. You were the only one that applauded. Thank you very much.
I recognize the value.
These homes and these properties are probably one of the last bastion in the mountain urban area that you'll see with these beautiful oversized lots. And there's been speculators in the past who have tried to buy and to sever into 2 or 3 lots. Community's risen up, and fortunately at committee levels it's always been turned down. So I just live back here, the Highview neighborhood, East 44th Street, about 5 minutes from where Selena and the bus are right now. I just live back in there and have lived on the East Mountain since the mid-80s. So again, I've had a citizens task force set up. We met during the pandemic virtually, had meetings, and all of this phase 2 that we're driving along right now, if you envision what we just saw, will be replicated along here as well. And we will conclude, as we get to Upper Gage, to a wonderful joint venture that Councillor Esther Pauls and I, with a 40-member citizen volunteer task force, have accomplished, where you're going to see where the new trail is going to go to Mountain Drive Park in just a minute. We're going to demolish the old washroom building and canopy, build a new washroom building, new canopy, new splash pad for kids, new solar panel lights along the escarpment's edge as well. About a $2 million project. It's citizen engagement at its best. And if you can believe it, 40 members of both Councillor Paul's community and mine met every other month with city departments, putting together this beautiful proposal that will redevelop this park while maintaining the bulk of the green space that you see here now. We haven't got into more of the heart of the neighborhood plazas and shops and that, but we have about on the East Mountain, which zigzags a bit from Upper Sherman to Upper Gage over to where we started near Albion Falls, about 40,000 people. I have about 13, 14 lovely different neighborhoods. Should I hand it over now, Shannon?
Yeah,
Okay, Councillor Pauls, it's all yours.
I have to follow you. That's going to be a
Thank you,
challenge.
everyone.
Thank you very much. And actually, I didn't know if we were going down Concession Street, but I gave you a package, and it talks about Concession Street. And as you see, Mountain Park, it's right, a beautiful, beautiful view. If you go behind these apartments, it's very intensified here, lots of apartment, and the view is unbelievable. And in 1929, City of Hamilton Brochure said this was the most beautiful scenery. And so if you go down Concession Street, believe it or not, my family, the Pauls family, has had business on Concession Street for over 60 years plus. And they continue to. My nephew owns a business right down here. You see the hospital here. I don't know if we're going right down Concession, but the hospital is, it used to be the Henderson, now is the Juravinsky Hospital. And it's, I'm not sure if we're going to go down. Are we going down Concession?
We're going to the left of the Upper Woodward.
Upper Woodward, great. So you'll see the Concession, if you look in your package, the Concession has a lot of new restaurants. It has a lot of business, and it also has a lot of institutions here. And we want to make sure Concession is they used to call it the uptown of downtown. Do you go uptown to Concession or downtown Hamilton? So this is your street, the BIA. I was the chair of the BIAs, and we're trying to get all the BIAs, small business, to thrive here in Hamilton. And Concession Street has, this is my nephew actually right here. My father-in-law used to have Frank Paul's Real Estate, and I used to work at the Royal Bank across the street from my father-in-law's. And it was the old bank. Now they put the new bank. And I worked there for over 20 years. It's right across from Shark, right here was the real estate. We used to have an insurance company where the vape store is. And so Concession is well known to me. I literally live off Upper Wellington, and I used to come down here quite a bit. And our business was here. Zarki's right there. The Royal Bank used to be right there, the old Royal Bank. And then they put the new one. I worked for the bank for over 15 years full time. Then I had my 4 boys and I stayed at home. So this is the new Dollarama. If you go, it just opened about 2 months ago. And if you go down, you see the beautiful view of our city. If you go right around all the way to Councillor Jackson, Ward 6, right up to St. Lawrence, you'll see the cut. Because we're turning this way, I want to talk a little bit about St. Lawrence Park. St. Lawrence Park was named after the mayor in 1944 to 1949. He served. And if you look at the history of St. Lawrence Park, you'll see it was a quarry, but then it was divided, and Councillor Danko has the other side of Upper Wellington. But I want you to know that St. Lawrence Park, we are going to spend $16.2 million, and Councillor Danko put $1 million in area rating, and I put $1 million in our area rating. So it's going to be improved, it's going to be beautiful, and I'm so glad that there is a plan for St. Lawrence Park. I want you to know, if you look at the map of Ward 7, it's been, I have the most populous ward, all of you, the most. We have close to almost 50,000 people, 47,000. And so I still, if you look at the map, it cuts off, and people are still calling me thinking, it's Councillor Jackson. I just got a call. Councillor Jackson, he got re-elected. How come you're the ward councillor? Because they don't realize it's been changed. So it is. It's right in front of you there. So as we go, I've got some exciting news. This is Upper Woodward, and we are actually fixing some roads. If you look past the Upper Fennel here, is it? Or yeah, Fennel coming up. We're fixing the potholes, the roads, and improving our roads, because our major roads here need improvement. If you watch any of our debates, the main concerns we had about the big pothole in Ward 7, and we need to fix them. So we are going past Fennel, and I want you to know that Ward 7, because there's so many of the people that live here, there is so many cars, and traffic is a concern. most of my calls are about traffic concern. They are, as you can hear, people honking away. And there's been a lot of accidents on Upper Woodward, especially where we're going towards the mall. And the reason is there is so much to look at. There really is. And people are distracted. And we need to make sure people are not distracted while driving, because as you know, cars are the weapons. So we have to make sure we're protected. If you go, I want to tell you that Ward 7 has over 35 parks. And like Councillor Jackson was saying, to me, health and safety is the most important thing. So I'm improving all the parks. So here we have Hill Park, and this is Sackville. This is a senior center that's being used constantly. If you go there, you'll see people playing all kinds of sports, getting engaged. And before COVID, they had a nook there where you could get breakfast and lunch for the seniors, and it's a fabulous place. So this is Sackville, and matter of fact, there are so many people here. Sometimes before COVID, you couldn't find parking. And there is going to be a big expansion coming soon, and they're really happy. Also, if you see, Ward 7 has the most, I'm pretty sure, I tried to get the figure, the most city housing and city providers. If you look at this building here, that is 395 Mohawk. It is a senior citizen, it's city housing. And it's located in, I think, in a great place because the mall is just there. Lots of grocery stores. We have in Ward 7, we have lots. Fortino's there, we have No Frills, we've got all kinds of grocery stores. So we're crossing Mohawk. Oh, we're going down here. All right, this is Sackville. We're going towards Upper Wellington then. Lime Ridge was here, so we're going towards Upper Wellington. And after Upper Wellington is Ward 8. So I thought, were we going to Lime Ridge? Or?
We just drove past it, now we're going over to Scenic Drive.
Oh, we're not going to talk about go right to Lime Ridge?
No, we just
okay.
by.
See, this has been an experience. I did not know where we were going to drive. I did look at the map and all that. But I want to tell you about Lime Ridge. Lime Ridge is an exciting place. If you look at the map I gave everybody, there's going to be 2 towers, 13 stories high. They're apartments. And the average size is between 800 to 1,000 square feet. They have big plans. The revisioning of Lime Ridge. Lime Ridge was built 44 years ago. And I remember when the link opened 25 years ago, we had a big run there, right from then. I remember Terry Cook, who was a runner. We ran together all the time. We actually did the 5K walk when the link was ready to open, and we all parked at Lime Ridge Mall. So I thought we were going to go by Lime Ridge Mall, but you could see Lime Ridge Mall, the re-envisioning, and I want to tell you, there is lots more news coming about Lime Ridge Mall. If you go to Lime Ridge Mall right now, you see a sea of cars and cement everywhere. It's going to be great having these buildings, these apartments, and have parks right in the mall, and at the back of it, I saw the plants, and you know what? It's going to be great. So I thought we were going to go by there, and I was going to show you the back where it's the hydro line, where they're going to turn some of those to parks. So, so you have all the information here, and there's more news coming about Lime Ridge Mall that I can't wait to share with you, and it's great. So if you look on Mohawk here, there's a lot of apartment buildings. We have a lot of apartment buildings on Mohawk, on Fennel, and Concession. And so you could see why Hamilton, Ward 7 is the most populous ward in Hamilton. So thank you. I know we're going to, as soon as we cross Upper Wellington, which I've lived on Upper Wellington, believe it or not, for 44 years. I lived in Ward 6 before, near Mountain Brow there, and when I first got married, and then we moved to Upper Wellington, and that's where I raised my boys. They went to Hill Park. That's not Hill Park anymore, but went to Pauline Johnson. And now we're going to go past Upper Wellington, and that is Ward 8. And some people call me and say, aren't you my ward counselor? Because it used to be up to Upper James was my ward. So people have to really pay attention to the new realignment that happened in 2018. So, and Councillor Danko's not here, but I could tell you there's a French school here that my grandkids went. And what else is here? This, and there's Upper James, I'll tell you, Upper James, I know if you go to Upper James, it's very busy street, so. Boy, talking really dries your mouth coming up here talking. So this has been a great day. You know what? I couldn't vision what this would look like, but you know what? We are amongst friends, and some of us maybe are better speakers or whatnot, but we're all in this together. We're here together to make our city the best place to live. And I think if we all work together, we all have different thoughts, we all have different ideas, but that's what makes life great. You know, if you know my husband, he's totally different than me, but we've been married 48 years. You know why? Because we're different, but yet we're alike. So I think I look at all my new counselor, I would love to get to know all of you. We're all different, but you know what? We all have one goal. And if you have one goal, you can get that vision done. And so I pray that we do that, okay? So I don't know who's taking over. Who's taking over?
After you will be Councillor Spatmore.
Councilor Spatmore, from one Italian to another Italian. Ciao,
Okay, so we're not in Ward 14 just yet, still in Ward 8. Some of the concerns that were talked about or come up with Ward 14 is, I guess, facilities. Let's look at Terryberry Library. That this was all part of Ward 8 at one time. So currently in Ward 14, we wouldn't have a library, but we are only a block away from Ward 14. But yeah, again, this was all one big ward that now 2018 was split up into 8 and 14. We are moving down Mohawk, and we are going to go on to Scenic Drive. Scenic Drive has been a topic that many people have discussed, not just within the ward, but it's more of a citywide topic due to the fact that there's so many exciting things on Scenic, but there's also a lot of concerns in regards to accessibility for pedestrians, for cyclists. Obviously, the Bruce Trail that a lot of people like to visit, including my family. You know, you have the stairs at Upper Paradise that take you down to Shadow Golf Course. So a lot of things on Scenic. So there's the waterfalls. There's so much to do on Scenic, and it's a beautiful place to go and explore. And I'll talk a bit about a capital project that is, from what I understand, in the design phase. That's coming up on Scenic to hopefully address some of those concerns and to hopefully get the most out of that area. And close, just to mention a couple things that are close to Scenic Drive. Obviously, there are a small number of developments that are happening in Ward 14. One of them that's ongoing right now is very close to Scenic Drive, which is Shadow Heights, which started as one 4-story building. I believe was phase 1 that was built by Starwood Homes, and now we've moved into 3-story towns, 2-story towns, and bungalofts that are being built by Starwood Homes and Mars Homes together. So this is, we're approaching the start of Ward 14. Obviously Garth heading down to bring you down to my friend Councillor Wilson's Ward 1. You know, what you'll see is as you go down, obviously on one side, Hillfield, that is outside of Ward 14, but definitely there are traffic concerns or speeding concerns, I would say, on Garth as you head down in the rush hour in the morning, you know, and obviously making it safe for people to walk. Obviously, there's a lot of students that walk to Long College in that area as well, so that's something we'll be looking at. Ward 14, we're approximately 35,000 when you look at population. You know, highly residential ward that makes up the majority of it. We do have a good amount of retirement homes, as well as St. Peter's Hospital, a couple high schools, but again, it's mostly made up of residential areas. We do have Westcliff Mall here on the right-hand side. And then you'll see we'll have Gina Marie Church, Kitty Corner. I don't know which way we're going to get the Scenic. Are we making a right?
Just going right on Scenic. Straight.
So you're going to go to all the way down Mohawk and make a right on Scenic, then loop back. Perfect. So we will keep going down Mohawk. You'll see Effort Trust coming up on the right and left-hand side. Has a pretty substantial corridor of property and high-rise buildings, or I guess I don't know if those are considered high-rise anymore, but definitely when they were built, they were considered high-rise. We do have some blow-ups on the right-hand side for Christmas. My kids would be loving that right now if they were on the bus.
I used to live a block away on Buckingham Drive.
Oh, okay. So yeah, heading down Mohawk and into the area, again, lots of residential homes. Mohawk Road is one of the areas that was reviewed in the Complete Streets study, which I haven't been able to cover every piece of it, but there is a plan, I believe part of the long-term implementation plan, to add bike lanes to this stretch of Mohawk Road, which I think will be, as you know, Mohawk is a very busy road. Speeding and safety for pedestrians and cyclists are obviously top of mind, so I think that would be a welcome addition to Mohawk Road. The development I was talking about between Starwood and Mars, you would turn right here on Rice Avenue. You might be able to see a piece of it as we go across the intersection. Another great place down off of Rice here when you get close to Sanatorium is the Interval House, which does great work in our community. They were presenting to one of our local hockey associations yesterday about coaching boys into men, which is very, very important program, and I look forward to continue to working with them in Ward 14. Again, this is the Effort Trust sort of corridor, if you want to call it, on both sides. Another plaza here on the left-hand side. One of my first employment was here. It's now a farm boy, but I did work at the Fortinos here on the left-hand side. just behind this plaza, Sir Allan McNabb Secondary School, and behind. We're almost at scenic. So just a little bit of information on Ward 14. Some of Ward 12 was taken and given to Ward 14 when they did the realignment of the boundaries. So Ward 14 continues up Mohawk and ends at the 403. So this is all still, the hydro corridor is Ward 14, as well as Scenic Woods here on your left, which was part of Ward 12 at one time. On your right-hand side, Olympic Park. So this area is, obviously a concern for many people that live in this area. One being the fact that the right-hand side has zero access for pedestrians, for cyclists. So if you were on the Scenic Woods side and you wanted to cross the street, you cross the street and hope not to get hit. You'll see a cyclist coming up here, coming past the bus. It's not, I would call, a safe place to ride your bike. So there has been discussion. I know there is a capital project in place, design stage right now, moving into, I believe, construction in 2024 to allow for multi-use path, a safer street for pedestrians, for cyclists. Keep in mind this area receives a lot of visitors, people that want to come here to visit the Bruce Trail, walk along the brow since it's a beautiful view of our great city. Some of the challenges that happen, so for people that come here with their cars, is parking. So this right-hand side of the bus here, people will start parking. You'll see signs that you're not supposed to stop, park, or all that stuff. So bylaw spends a lot of time here. Obviously, safety concerns with people parking, backing up, and all those things. Here's the entrance to the Bruce Trail, or the Chinook Trail. There's an expansion happening here. There has been some speed humps that have been installed. But again, you can see on the left-hand side, we do not have a pedestrian sidewalk. We don't have anything for cyclists. The path has been made by the amount of people. That goes to show you the amount of traffic this area gets. But think of the left-hand side, how safe that is, and how close you are to falling down the escarpment. So definitely a massive safety concern. No sidewalks on either side now. And again, I don't need to, you can see it out the window how beautiful the view is and why it attracts so many people. But no sidewalks on either side, no cyclist path, multi-use path on either side. So I know the residents are looking forward to making this more accessible for everyone. Again, some safety concerns, as you can literally just fall off the side of the escarpment there. We do not have a nice black fence like they do in Ward 6. So maybe Councillor Jackson will be part of our design team when we talk about the fence that we need here. Obviously on the right hand side there's some large residential lots, beautiful properties that have some new homes that have been built when they've purchased old homes. But again, as you look inside all these roads, high residential areas, we do have obviously a lot of parks in Ward 14. We need them because there's a lot of people that live here and love to use the community. So again, both sides of scenic, as you can see here, it's pretty bad. This lady's trying to walk. Being on her cell phone, probably not the best idea, but again, it's not very accessible or safe for anyone. We'll be pulling up to a development that is coming. I am waiting for a full report and review on this development on the left-hand side, as I do not have all the details. I believe it's past a couple stages, but I don't know what exact stage it is at currently. But this area, I believe the initial plan was some mid-rise buildings, some townhomes. I don't know if that plan has changed. I believe there is also a building. The name of the building is not coming to me right now, but the building is supposed to be, or was in the plan, to be kept as part of the community facilities. I don't think we can see the building. We might be able to see it as we come around the corner. This is the backside of the Shidok Heights development I was talking about. That's the 4-story building that was done by Star Ward. Shidok Arena and St. Peter's Hospital just on the other side. Can we see the building? You can see one of the buildings there. Again, I don't know exactly. I know one of the original plans was to keep the building and to have it as part of the new community that's being built here. This is a residence for Columbia College. Nice, beautiful building here. And again, we're still on scenic, as it's going to take us all the way to Garth. And you'll see that we, again, do not have anywhere for pedestrians on the left side. We have nowhere for cyclists. Speeding is definitely a concern in this area. And we'll come around to where we'll be approaching Upper Paradise Road and the stairs. There's also the Shidok Lookout. There's the Casino. We haven't been by the falls yet. As you can see, there's a path there that leads you along the as well. Now we've added some bike lanes here, but most of the markings have, some of them have gone away. Obviously the roads are not in great condition. But again, a lot of this part of the capital project coming. And again, beautiful view here on your left. Here's the Shidok Lookout. We got the scenic parkette here. There's the lookout. This is the parking lot here for the Shidok Stairs. Again, that'll lead you down to the golf course. The building here on our right has up many times when we were canvassing. One of the things that residents in this area talked about was the walk score. They would have loved for that. That used to be a convenience store when I was a lot younger. But it would be a great place for coffee shop, ice cream, just to be anywhere, just for a place for people from the area and residents to engage with each other and spend some time. There's definitely not the ability to do that on this side because we just don't have it. We had another area here where we did have some accidents, and now you can see has been fenced off for safety. Shidok Falls here. Oh, we're going right. Okay. Left. Are you going downtown?
Yeah, we're going down.
Yes.
Left.
Yes, so Shidok Falls here on your left-hand side. And this, again, we're approaching Garth, the Belfour House, which is and we will make a left, I believe, to head down the Queen Street Hill, as I call it, and the end of Ward 14. I don't know who's taken over for me.
Is that Ward 1 or 2?
Counselor, are you coming back on?
Cameron, do you want to do?
Cameron or?
Cause you, yeah, cause you
Yeah,
kind
we're
of
gonna go 2 or 3.
What's going on?
Just turn it on by flipping it down.
No problem.
Scenic driving is on, let's see. Nice road if you didn't walk on it.
My kids were right where the curve is, where the thing
Yeah, there's a lot of, but the capital project is pretty big there, so.
That area where
Yeah.
talking about the development, used to be a sanatorium there. Stuff like that. 100 years ago, it was a place where everyone with tuberculosis was treated.
Hey folks, I'm back. Thanks everyone so far. Before we get into it, I want to accept Councillor Beatty's challenge. I'm sorry, but the GS Dun mustard, dry mustard factory downtown, I've been going since 1867. I have the second oldest
And the largest mustard miller seed in the world. The largest.
We are now down. This is Beckett. Car transforms into Beckett, and it transforms again, moments later, to Queen Street. And this is the border between, you don't know, between Ward 1 in the west and Ward 2 in the east. And is one of the most dangerous streets in our city. And I'll talk a little bit about what's going on here as we get down, but first of all, enjoy this beautiful view. Pause for that. You can see the density, right, in a certain different kind of way. I think this might be more the kind of density I think that some were referring to earlier, as you see as we get down here. More the mid-rise and high-rise density.
Can I just mention, this is a Bruce Trail crossing here. It is the most dangerous Bruce Trail crossing in Ontario, right here. And it's unmarked.
Yeah, the escarpment access crossings in general, especially where all the stairs are treacherous and terrifying. And so something definitely to think about. As we come down here, again, this is the border between 1 and Ward 2. What makes this particularly dangerous, or something we should think through, are the sidewalks here. I shared this with someone in city staff earlier today. You cannot walk 2 people wide on the sidewalk here without traffic reflexively revolting. What does that mean? It means if you walk 2 people on the sidewalk here when it starts, traffic feels like you're too close to them. So all lanes of traffic move over west when you walk down the sidewalk here. Because they feel like you're so close to them that they might hit you. When I knocked down the street, and I know all the neighbors down here, I knocked down the side of the street, I couldn't hear half the people who were speaking to me at all until traffic passed by, and we were able to continue our conversation. So door knocking here took a lot longer for that reason. There have been some conversions to Queen Street this way, and those specifically are to make Queen Street 2 ways. You'll notice as we come down Queen Street though, right, there are all kinds of speed signs and PXOs and other kinds of crosswalks and interventions in the space here. What they haven't done is made the street dramatically safer. Design features here need to be improved, because if you put up a sign that says you should only go 50 or you should only go 40, but the street is designed to go 70 or 80, people are going to drive 70 or 80. That's just how it's going to go.
And they get mad when you drive 40.
Right, and people do get mad. So it's an important artery here. The 2-way conversion was hotly contested, and now it's underway. People are super amped about this. So I'm really excited about seeing it continue to be converted. There's been some developments that have kind of been in the way. And I guess to think about that, sometimes development downtown means that you can't get these kinds of projects done because there's just so little space. We had an amazing tour earlier of wards where I think space was so plentiful. You just can soak the space in through your soul. Look at all this beautiful land. I'm seeing all the different trees, the biodiversity, all the cool little animals I shouted out from the back of the bus that I saw as we saw them, including cats. And, you know, it was wonderful to see them. Here, it's not that kind of situation. Every inch, every sidewalk, every bit of space is used and is precious. Right? So when you take up a lane of traffic for a development, that just shuts down everything. When you don't provide a sidewalk detour for a closed bike lane, you don't provide a sidewalk detour for pedestrians, that has a huge impact on people's ability to get around. Because all the arterial roads in Ward 2 separate the historic neighborhoods. And if you know or don't know, the 4 founding neighborhoods of Hamilton are in Ward 2. There are 6 though: Beasley Central, Corktown, Durand, the North End, and Stinson. Those are the 6 neighborhoods that are part of Ward 2. And they're all divided by major arterial roads. I know Councillor Pauls I was a little bit, I'll be honest with you, a bit taken aback by the number of parks in Ward 7. When you said that number, I didn't know that there were 35 parks in Ward 7, which is tremendous. When you think about the way that this ward is laid out, the Durand neighborhood here, which has the most number of apartment buildings in any neighborhood in the city, and Ward 2 has the most density of apartment buildings anywhere in the city, has the most population of the whole of Ward 2 in that tiny neighborhood. It has a very small 1-block size park for all the, I think, 12-ish thousand people who live there. If they would like to get access to amenities and more park space and more green space, they have to cross east to the Corktown neighborhood. Corktown neighborhood has about 3 public green spaces in total. And to do that, though, they have to cross James Street South. And if you've ever been on James Street South, you know you can't really cross James Street South in a safe way. So much so the city's installed a fence to prevent people from jaywalking because of how dangerous it is, right? So psychically, right, in the downtown core, people are contained to the neighborhoods. And it's part, I think, why there's such a strong neighborhood identity downtown, right? You may not be in Ward 11 and know what neighborhood you're in, necessarily. I remember going to a high school talk once somewhere in Dundas and being like, these are the neighborhoods in your area, and all the students go like, get out of here. They have names. So yes, all the city is divided into neighborhoods. Here though, it's rare when someone doesn't know the name of the neighborhood they live in, right? There's a strong identity. Well, it's a positive thing in a way where people are associated with their community, but it's because primarily people don't travel to other neighborhoods. Right now we're here, again, close to City Hall. This area here, I'll point out to you, is a confluence of so many things. On the right-hand side, we have a heritage building that has been in disrepair for a long time, and it is a constant site of speculation. This is Hess Village here on the left-hand side, which has, for a really long time, dealt with all kinds of issues. That seems to be coming out of that sometime soon, but we'll find out. I live right here, like in these 2 blocks. I live on Jackson Street West. And I want you to think about that. Jackson Street West and all the high-rises you see here, the majority of those high-rises, City Housing Hamilton buildings. Again, highest concentration of City Housing Hamilton Ward 2. So we have a lot of sort of higher-end apartment and condo living here, a block and a half away from all major City Housing buildings. And I'll share an anecdote with you briefly that I think we should all think about, or thinking about the choices and decisions we make. That building right at the corner there, Core Lofts, the former 1977 Bell building, is 2 buildings away from, 3 buildings away from 95 Hess Street South. 95 Hess Street is a city housing building. City housing building that constantly, every day, day in, day out, security concerns, people's safety being threatened, all kinds of situations going on in that building space. That Bell building, which is a condo, never does. I'll ask you to reflect on why you think that might be, why you think people aren't trying to access the condo building on a regular basis. And the answer is because if people tried to access the condo building on a regular basis, the people who live in the condo know that their safety will be preserved. They know, and the people who would try to access that building know that because it's a condominium building and not city housing, that it would be treated differently than the city housing buildings down the street. So that's a reality in this neighborhood. It's a reality all around downtown. I want you to think about that in terms of how we serve every resident equally. We're also in a historic part of the city. And this is the former Central Library branch, actually, which is now turned into a court facility. On your left, the McNabb Street Terminal, where many HSR drivers have their only bathroom stop on their routes. And I want to flag that because I think it's a really important thing to think about. There aren't adequate washroom facilities for public ETU 107 local workers, and that's one of the only places in the city that have a washroom on their routes. We are slowly driving down here toward Ward 3. The boundary between Ward 2 and Ward 3 is Wellington Street. That makes Ward 2 the smallest ward in the whole city, but the densest in that way. Councillor Nan.
Thank you, and welcome, almost welcome, to Ward 3. So this is on the other side of Wellington is when we'll enter Ward 3. Ward 3 is bordered by Wellington and Ottawa and escarpment down to the water. And it is where we always say Ward 3 is where we belong to each other. Councillor Wilson referenced at the beginning that the percentage of residents who use motor vehicles to get around. And Ward 3 is that about 38% of our residents don't use motor vehicles as their primary mode of transportation. Making active transportation options way more important, and sidewalk snow removal, which begins this winter, woo! Super important, especially for seniors and folks with diverse mobility needs who rely on our transit system. And so as we're coming along Main Street, for those of you who haven't experienced this yet, you see the impact of the immediate safety enhancements that the last term of council brought in terms of reducing laneways from a 5-lane road to a 4-lane road and opening up access to parking along the north side here on Main Street, which has had a tremendous impact on the local businesses that previously had a throughway right on the adjacent sidewalk to their businesses. The other piece around safety enhancements, and this is just phase 1. We have a lot more to come, and staff will be bringing back reports in early 2023 in terms of what the future of Main Street will look like and the phasing in and implementation of an eventual 2-way with Main Street. The other thing that Ward 3, among 2 other wards, last term of council did was a comprehensive complete streets plan for traffic calming and safer redesign with resident input. And we had over 800 residents participate in the process, and we identified 128 road safety enhancement interventions that will be funded over the course of many years. One of the residents who participated in the process said, "This might mean that I now have to drive an extra block to get to my house, but at least I'll feel way safer about my kids playing in my front yard." And I think if you experience Main Street as we're driving through these neighborhoods right now, you can see what happened historically. The street is lined with many vacant commercial properties, and it's actually really exciting to see as new Hamiltonians come into the area. With them moving into the area, they're also bringing in revitalization of small storefronts. So over on the right-hand side, and thank you to the new council colleagues who met me here, we have a small revitalization here with Rooney's Coffee Shop and a few other places opening up along the strip. And as we continue going down towards Gage Park, which is going to be our next stop, or maybe we're not stopping, but we're just passing by as a location of significance. There we go. Gage Park is Hamilton's 10 acres of landscape architectural heritage significance. It is not only historically beautiful in terms of the landscaping that went in there, it also remains being a place of, I'll say, landscape architectural excellence as our city staff continue to evolve the location and the park to meet our current needs in terms of our population today. Some enhancements that we've been able to bring in include paved multi-pathway, making it much more accessible year-round. And as a result of that, it became the primary spot for the Everybody Rides Initiative Adaptive Hub, where folks can go in and rent out adaptive bicycles and ride them around the inner loop that is now paved here in Gage Park. A couple of other enhancements is a stormwater management system pond that is now in the park, using nature's intelligence as a way of helping us deal with stormwater, and also a really beautiful place for peaceful, serene reflection as you look up towards the escarpment in the amphitheater area there. The Tropical Greenhouse, which is an award-winning architectural piece of design from a local architectural firm called McCallum Sather. Gorgeous place, also one place for some refuge and peace. The Children's Museum, which we just passed, is slated for renovation, and we received a federal grant for that, so really excited about that, and many families in the community super excited about the Children's Museum revitalization. It's also the site of one of our, I think, largest, maybe, I could be wrong about this, placemaking grants that the city gave out to resident-led initiatives, and that was an Indigenous-centered children's garden, an opportunity to teach children about plants year-round, and it's been incredible seeing hundreds of little local residents now rolling up their sleeves and getting their hands in the dirt and learning so much more about the natural ecosystem right here in the heart of an urban neighborhood. So this will also be the site of where the LRT line kind of crosses over. We passed through the Delta intersection where previously there was a last year tragic accident where unfortunately some workers at the Pizza were struck by a vehicle and killed. But that traffic intersection is where the LRT line will move from King Street over to Main Street as it proceeds down past Ottawa Street into Ward 4 and towards its destination at Eastgate Mall? Yes. Thank you. So I think we're going to move down Ottawa Street, which is the border between 4 and 3. Happy to share it with Councillor Wang, and we're really excited about meeting with the local Ottawa Street BIA. For those of you who haven't experienced Ottawa Street in a while, it is definitely one of these revitalized commercial corridors that Hamilton can be very proud of. Wonderful restaurants have opened up here, great amenity spaces, but also a beautiful mix of community life in the sense of the YWCA's new women and gender diverse housing complex here, as well as the Hamilton Regional Indian Center here on the Ward 4 side. The border here is the yellow line, but we definitely share the community interests on both sides of Ottawa Street and champion the kind of innovation, but also community life that is really fostered here. And I think it's those kinds of collaborations that don't just exist between bordering wards, but it's something that we can look forward to, and what this tour actually, I think, enhances for all of us around the same table, around the horseshoe. So Ottawa Street has a master plan coming forward. A lot of residents are concerned about speeding and roadway safety. Cannon and Ottawa here has been the site of many motor vehicles going into buildings. The Laidlaw United Church has been struck by motor vehicles. Cannon Coffee Shop has had vehicles go right through those beautiful windows of theirs. And over here on this corner now we have an Indwell and Sacagawea Indigenous Women's Housing Project, and the Cannon Coffee Shop will be moving into that corner. So just take it in. It's a revitalizing commercial corridor. I think this is exactly what we want to see in terms of the main streeting of our commercial corridors and supporting the local BIAs to make sure that that we have thriving, vital spaces that connect our neighborhoods and also feed our neighborhoods, not only from a literal perspective in terms of fantastic food establishments and small businesses, but also in terms of being walkable, safe places where we can gather in community and really begin harnessing those connections neighbor to neighbor post-pandemic and coming back outside and into community with each other. So as we proceed northward, we're headed into the industrial sector. So again, similar to what Councillor Huang said in terms of the socioeconomic factors, also traditional working class neighborhoods here that you can see on the left side. And as we keep going northbound, we are coming adjacent to the industrial sector where there has been a legacy of not only economic growth in terms of the old industrial base here in Hamilton, but I think a real beacon for what's to come in the future of climate excellence. As the Stelco lands now and the slate development project that's to come on those lands, that's one piece of the puzzle. I think the overarching framework that I'm so excited about as a Hamilton City Councillor is the work that our staff did in the planning department around our Bayfront Industrial Area Strategy, which is a 40-year vision of transforming our industrial north end into a place of climate excellence, but also better buffering between the industrial north end and our residential zones. So we'll see increased urban canopy, we'll see a better enhanced public realm, we'll see more mindful planning towards sidewalks that are hopefully not so adjacent to the roadway where heavy trucks are going, but have much more intentionality around it. And if you, for all my new council colleagues, if you haven't had a chance yet, definitely do check out the presentation from the General Issues Committee last term, where staff did overview that presentation. It's an incredible piece of work that I think we're all very, very excited about as we deliberate and bring forward those actions and recommendations over the coming years. So here we are. In terms of some of those legacy issues, I think they were mentioned before, not only in the context of Ward 4 and Ward 3, but also I think mentioned earlier in terms of the impact of some of the larger employment lands and industrial lands in some of the other wards, in terms of the impact to community life. So we've gotten tons of concerns expressed by our residents here around air quality. This area has a 20-year less life expectancy rate than other parts of the city. 20 years. 23. That's a staggering health inequity statistic that isn't just mine to hold as a Ward 3 councillor, it's all of ours to hold. And I think population outcome is a critical measure by which we as a council can know whether or not we're succeeding. Part of it is our economic development, absolutely. Part of it is how are we enhancing and meeting our housing needs, absolutely. The other key indicator for all of us to be held accountable to are our public health measures and public health outcomes in terms of our population. So when it comes to complaints about air quality and those correlations to lung cancers and those correlations to life expectancy, we have to think about what are the levers in our municipal toolbox that we can pull, like those mentioned by the city solicitor during our orientation, a bank of opportunity around well-being based bylaws. And I'm really looking forward for this council to deliberate some of those opportunities to help bring some accountability where previously and legitimately the environmental regulation is held provincially. So what can we do as a municipality to make sure that our industrial base are laborers and that they're also sharing the burden of our, not only our population health impact, but from the perspective of climate excellence. And how do we continue to work with our industrial base here, not only in terms of promoting good jobs, but making sure that they're part of building sustainable communities in the adjacent area as well. Dust and drag out is another major complaint for residents who live adjacent to the industrial north end, as well as noise and odor and noise and odor complaints as well. So what street are we at right now? I can't see.
We're on Burlington. We're going to go all the way to James.
We're at Gage. Okay. Are we going towards Wentworth?
We're going to pass by and we're going to go all the way to past Green and then let's go to James.
Okay.
So we'll go right by.
All right. So we will get a chance to drive by where our staff are currently doing remediation work on the pipe that had passed that. Okay. Great. Just a second as I open up my phone. So we just passed Brightside neighborhood, the last little residential enclave back there.
where in those hydro lands or adjacent to those hydro lands are the last of some really beautiful multi-generational orchards that were planted by Italian, Polish, Ukrainian working class immigrants who used to live in the neighborhood. I had a chance to tour that neighborhood, and you really do feel the ghost of ghost of those thriving working class neighborhoods. Some incredible walking zones back there if anybody's interested in those Jane Walk approaches of understanding historical. So as we continue this way along Burlington Street, adjacent neighborhoods that way, predominantly business, commercial, and industrial in this area. City Kids is here as well. Yeah. Primary areas are issues for residents in the North End are around access to safe walking, safe cycling pathways. So they want to see more connectivity here for the bike share program, as well as a lot of interest in public access to the waterfront. So when we mentioned the slate development on the former Stelco lands, that is an opportunity for us as a municipality to help shape out what the public realm will look like and see if there is any opportunity there to bring public access to the waterfront for residents in Ward 3 and also residents from across the city as we come in. So here we are. I have nothing to add here in terms of commentary other than they're doing good work. Points of interest and concern for Ward 3 residents is illegal dumping. So along the train tracks, less so in this industrial area, but a little further south from here towards Cannon, along the rail lines, we have a lot of illegal dumping that takes place, and it's it's something that has really been a struggle as a municipality to get to tackle. One of the initiatives in terms of our commercial corridors and the VIA corridors on Barton Street and on Ottawa is a pilot program of increasing the number of public waste and recycling receptacles and seeing what we can learn from that program and see if we can expand the number of public waste receptacles along our major arterial roads throughout Flora City. In this area, not so much of can't see it as much because it's not so much a public realm in terms of pedestrian activity, but definitely when you're in the neighborhoods, you can see it along King Street, along Main Street, along Cannon, and the north-south corridors as well. In terms of demographics in Ward 3, we do have a higher percentage of renters. We also have the highest concentration of folks with lower income households. We're also seeing a change in demographics in terms of new Hamiltonians moving into Ward 3, as Councillor Wang mentioned, Ward 3 and 4 being sought after locations for attainable housing for those who are choosing to buy single family homes. Also prime for folks who are looking to acquire multiple properties and investment properties. And as a result, unfortunately, we do have a lot of vacant homes that should be occupied. We have empty homes that starting, I think, is it in 2023 that the vacant homes tax will come into effect? I can't remember, maybe it's 2024, looking back to staff. But nonetheless, hopefully that vacant homes tax will help address the need for those empty homes to be occupied, and more importantly for those who are sitting on those empty homes and speculating on them, that they're in a position to pay a higher tax rate as a result. It's estimated that we will be, at a conservative estimate, generating $3.3 million a year from the vacant homes tax, which this term of council can contemplate whether we earmark those dollars back into more affordable housing.
Hey again, we're back at Ward 2. And this is also the North End. Residential areas, mostly this way, and you'll notice the industrial operations have largely stopped at this point. It's a very different kind of North End than you're getting east of here. The quality of life is often touted as really important. It's often touted as a family-friendly neighborhood. It's a desirable place to live, and the health and equity outcomes are not the same here. So I want to point that out as we're traveling west. At the corner behind you, we just passed the Ken Sobel Tower, which is recently retrofit. Part of the development being done here. And this is, of course, James Street, historic James Street. This is the far north part of James Street. You'll notice it's mostly residential here with a few buildings here and there, a few different businesses here and there, mostly residential up to a certain point. On the left-hand side, you'll see this was built not too long ago, an Indwell facility right here at the corner, which is shared with a church. So there's a combined use again with the library. So there's a James North Baptist Church at the bottom of there, and there's a recreation area as well. James Street, of course, now being two ways, and the sky didn't fall after all, it turns out, and everything's fine, so we'll just point that out right away. We're coming up to, I think, one of the biggest issues I heard about when I was knocking on doors was the Jamesville development. And for those who don't have a real sense of this, it's not only been empty for 6 years, it has been planned for 12 years. And so if you can imagine psychically what that's like for folks, right? I know I'm combining a lot into this. As a densest ward, this will be the densest talk. But there's a lot to be said about what this means when this entire green space all the way down to Bayfront Park is unused, and you have folks who are camping in tents over the winter, who have nowhere else to go, with housing set across the road. Now the windows and things that are out of it now, that's a recent thing, but for most of the last 6 years, that space was habitable. And I want you to think about that confluence and what neighbors saw every single day when they were coming out of their houses. This is the more businessy part of James Street North. And it's been a very changing neighborhood for its existence. A lot of Portuguese and Italian immigrants who came here originally and started businesses, and you can see some of the remnants of that still here. Most of those folks have left the neighborhood and are now in other parts of the city. So it's a very changing fabric. We're moving quickly, there's so many things to say here. This is Barton Street. And this is the less, I would say, terrifying part of Barton Street. The CAA came to this part of Barton Street, they'd be like, okay, this is not so bad. It's more so other parts of Barton Street which really are awful. But you can see a lot of the really famous north and south arteries here that are part of the city. Like James Street, for instance, is only in Ward 2, right? There's a lot of only in Ward 2 streets, named after a lot of the founding people and their children. And you can see a lot of abandoned spaces, or spaces that are could be utilized for development, could be densified here. One is going to be happening right at the corner there. There's a mixed-use development of town, business, and some type of mid-rise building going over there. But as you look around, you can see there's lots of opportunities for density. And I'm super touched that we're passing by one of the only grocery stores in Ward 2. There are 37,000 people who live in this space between Wellington and Queen and the harbor and the escarpment. I want you to think about that. 37,000 people. Most of them don't have access to a local grocery store. It is very difficult for residents in the North End to get to that grocery store sometimes because there are only Ferguson Street here and a couple of other accesses to the North End for people. If you walk and one of the pedestrian bridges is under construction, or both are under construction at the same time as it's happened in the past, how do you get to the grocery store, right? So thinking about making sure there's shuttles and things like that available for folks so they can use them, right? When we know there's these disconnectivities between neighborhoods. We're now approaching Wellington Street again, and Councillor Nan, take it away.
So this intersection also has been a quite treacherous and dangerous one. Adjacent to us here is the Hamilton General Hospital. A lot of patients coming in and out of this hospital, a lot of workers coming in and out of this space. A very highly pedestrianized area in terms of access for pedestrians, and as well as folks with differing mobility needs. And so you have this right up against a truck route, right? You have this right up against multi-lanes of traffic in all direction. And so that's why it was really important for the last term of council in our truck routes master plan, or truck routes network reroute, for us to reconsider where is appropriate for heavy trucks to be going. And I'm proud to report that they'll be coming off of Wellington Street as well, where Mr. D'Souza was struck by a multiple access heavy truck while he was crossing his mobility scooter at that intersection and killed. So we're on Barton Street and into the heart of Barton Village BIA territory, and another corridor that is revitalizing. A lot of newer businesses opening up, a lot of local residents that live in the area also opening up shop here, while also being in a place of what I would say cultural institutions as it relates to cultural foods in the city. So we still have a lot of those multi-generational cultural food, family-owned restaurants and delis and grocers mixed in with a lot of newer establishments as well. So we're starting to see that kind of revitalizing coming back. But there are things that we could be doing to help foster that revitalization and also a thriving commercial corridor. Some of those pieces that are coming up is around how do we build and support mixed income and mixed development housing adjacent to these corridors so that there is an appropriate customer base for these thriving communities. A lot of these alleyways you will see places where people tuck in order to access different modalities. I don't know what else to say right now about that, other than this is an area where we do find a lot of needles discarded. There are safety concerns from that perspective, and a lot of paramedic calls that come in along this street, along adjacent neighborhoods as well, in terms of folks who are suffering overdoses. Over here we have, to the north side of us, Woodlands Park, historically the site of a workers' general strike. It used to be a gorgeous, wonderful wooded park with some incredible architectural elements that were razed, unfortunately. But we're slowly bringing revitalization and investment back into this park, including the rally court, which was just back there behind the fire hall, in partnership with the Arkells, the Ron Foxcroft Foundation, Dick Nurse Foundation, and Supernam Foundation, for a destination basketball court. So you're starting to hear the bumping again, right? In terms of the crumbling road infrastructure. Barton Street is recognized for slated is the word I'm looking for, slated for a complete reconstruction. And the difference between reconstruction and repaving is, for my new council colleagues, reconstruction means subsurface work as well as surface level work. And with our new Complete Streets Guide manual kind of helping shape the direction in which we're headed with all of our roadway replanning, Barton Street has an opportunity to completely be resurfaced and brought back to life in terms of the pedestrian corridor, in terms of trees back onto this street, in terms of an examination of the cycling infrastructure along this roadway, so that we can make sure that this is a roadway that not only safe for all users of the road, but is a roadway that is bringing back a thriving community and supporting a thriving community along Barton Street, connecting Ward 1 all the way through to Ward 4 and into 5. So that reconstruction is a multi-phase, multi-year project that is slated to begin in 2024. A couple of other places of significance. You've heard the past delegation here talking about a site right back there in Barton Village, in an area that we were just talking about in terms of bringing back commercial corridors. So they did find a private site back there that is going to be a location for them, but I want you all to consider that in terms of the appropriateness of a location in a commercial corridor versus others. On this block here, we have many different cultural as well as social services, as well as small businesses. Just on this block here, there's an application by the AIDS Network for the second Consumption Treatment Service Center, just adjacent to us over here. These also a couple of examples of some small complete street aspects to bring safety onto our roadway. We've had some permanent bump outs, previously been temporary. And we're coming up to Gage Street, or Gage Avenue, and just on the north side here, behind the Dollarama Fresco Stadium Mall Plaza, is the former Dominion Glass site. And just on the other side of those partially vacated houses is the former Dominion Glass site, which is now going to become Brightside Neighborhood Park. This is the largest green infrastructure investment the city of Hamilton has made in the urban forward in over 100 years. It is former brownfield site, a former industrial site, into a neighborhood green space. So our landscape architect team has done an incredible job with community resident input to shape out what that park design is going to look like. Our parks folks have done a great job in terms of identifying the amenities that will be inside that park. They'll include everything from a splash pad to basketball courts to kind of passive walking spaces, lots of biodiversity plant options, as well as soccer field. So coming along Gage, back towards to the south will be Gage Park, to the north will be Brightside Park, and I love the idea that these two parks are now connected by biking infrastructure as well. So these bike lanes were brought in the 2014 to 2018 term of council. One of the challenges with these bike lanes, however, is that they're not protected. And subsequently, we don't see a lot of people using them. And so this is an area that we need to think about in terms of what are the right types of biking infrastructure facilities we need to be investing in, and how do we enhance those that are already in place in order to facilitate more users using them. Adjacent to all of this are a lot of elementary schools and the Bernie Custis High School. Down Cannon here, we're in the stadium precinct. You can see the Tim Hortons Field to the right, and across the street from that is the new Bernie Morelli Rec Center, as well as the Bernie Custis High School. So that entire kind of hub of public facility is also attracting a lot of pedestrian traffic. And back to that original statistic that I started this presentation with, which is majority of our residents are looking for active transportation options to move around their city, to access all the ways in which that they can enjoy our city. So the more we can do to link those, finalize those links in terms of connectivity between our cycling infrastructure and in terms of all year-round enhancements, that sidewalk snow removal is definitely going to make a big impact for those who are coming towards the stadium for the Ticats game or concerts. It all makes a difference. In terms of built form and possibilities, we are now back on the LRT corridor, which I like to call the artery of possibility for our city. So as we're going to proceed, you'll see not only the sites that are staying in place, but you're also going to start being able to imagine where the LRT station stops are going to be, because you'll see them adjacent to demo site. Sorry, Bernie Morelli Rec Center there, new naturalized play zone, and this is the Bernie Custis High School. To the right. So demo site after demo site, you'll see several of these locations that previously were either auto body shops, restaurants, homes. So there's been a conversation about the loss of a legacy in terms of people's old memories. Some folks had their very first date at Martin's Bowling, which is on the corner coming up here at Sherman and King. And now will be the location for the Sherman station of the LRT line. And so the opportunity for this new term of council is to talk about what does the artery possibility look like in terms of good service planning, but also from the perspective of good development for those complete neighborhoods that we all desire to help shepherd and facilitate across our city. And then the implications of the provincial regulations and the limitations of inclusionary zoning being prescribed to us rather than being a decision that we can make as a municipality, I think is also an unfortunate reality versus where folks were hoping our conversation was going. Nonetheless, I am still hopeful that we'll be able to land many community benefits along this artery of possibility. So this used to be a Scotiabank, Keem Optical, this used to be a gas station. I live down this street right here. This is owned by Metrolinx as well. So there's several properties along this corridor that have already been acquired by Metrolinx. You'll see another apartment building here, which during the pandemic, it was a heartbreak to know that nobody could go inside or live here when housing was so scarce in those first initial months, and seeing boarded up apartment buildings that otherwise would have made incredible opportunities to help reduce the number of folks that had no other option but to live in cabins during those early phases of the pandemic. So as we see these cleared out lots that are fenced off, this site I believe is owned by Verancore and is the location for a future condo development, so not an LRT Metrolinx property. But nonetheless, as we move down, you'll see the current properties that have been bought out, but there's actually significantly more to come. And so the impact of seeing neighborhoods blocks upon blocks get demolished, and what that does to the psyche of a community that has been calling these neighborhoods their homes, in some cases for a couple of generations, has been an incredible opportunity to listen to stories as a counselor, as well as to encourage people to get those stories down and tell a little bit more. But at the same time, envisioning the future of what is to come in terms of hopefully high passive design development in terms of condos, also in terms of the food deserts that were talked about in other wards. Ward 3 also doesn't have enough grocery stores based on the number of households. For some people it's multiple bus stops in order to get to a grocery store. So we're also going to be paying really close attention to the development that's coming along this corridor to also lend some of those amenity spaces inside of those new developments for things like grocery stores and other amenity spaces and social services as well. On the other side of East here, to the south side, is the new St. Patrick's Catholic Elementary School. They tore down their previous school and built up a new one in the same location. And with it, I think has now created a new zone that we have to think about differently in terms of traffic flow and designing for pedestrian access, and particularly when we think about Vision Zero and the necessary hierarchy of needs that we're designing our roadways towards, the user that is at the top of that hierarchy of need is the child pedestrian. And so right here, nestled between King Street and Main Street, we have an elementary school. And this intersection at Victoria, both at King and at Main, are also high collision zones. So we're going to have to do some work here as a city to make sure that the children who are going to school here are going there safely when they're walking there or riding their bikes there. And our second largest protected bike infrastructure, bike lane on Victoria Avenue, going all the way from Burlington up towards the Stinson neighborhood, was just completed this year. And then on the other side of this white building to our south side, right at that corner there, was the former Red Cross building and is now the building owned by Core Urban and is being considered by Mission Services for a new men's shelter, 108-bed men's shelter, just on the other side of this. So one of the other pieces that has come up quite a bit at the doors this term compared to previous term is the concentration of shelter services as well as other services in Ward 3 in terms of our social service providers moving from the downtown core into other areas where they're able to afford buildings either in long-term leases or in terms of making real estate transactional deals that enable them to then expand the number of beds and or the number of affordable housing units that they're aiming to provide. And we have to reconcile that with both in terms of the extreme need in our community for those beds and those affordable housing units, as well as services like consumption treatment services and addiction services, as well as those wraparound social supports that we know help people stay housed and towards a pathway of recovery and engagement back into society, with the need to accommodate populations across the entire city. So one of the expressed concerns, not by the majority of Ward 3 residents, but by many thousands, was this notion that there's a super concentration of social services in Ward 3 compared to any other ward. So this term I'll be working with staff to take a look at that in terms of whether or not that's true and continue making evidence-based decisions as a council to help address this complexity of social need in our neighborhoods, while at the same time doing what is necessary as a municipality by pulling every lever that's available to us to help solve homelessness and move our city towards a thriving one for every neighborhood in every ward across the city. And now we're back in Ward 2, on our way back to City Hall. Woohoo! Woohoo! To the mayor? Or to Cameron?
One thing I wanted to point out, just when we were coming down here to approaching downtown Hamilton, is you might have seen if you look down King Street, a whole bunch of trees with twinkly lights on it. And I wanted to make that point again. There's a real transition between East Hamilton, when you notice there were almost no trees along all of King Street, and no twinkly cute lights. But as soon as we hit the downtown Hamilton Gateway, boom, International Village, we have all these trees. They're all going to go away as part of LRT, right? So one thing I really want to emphasize is how degraded the urban forest canopy has been. This right now neighborhood we're in is Corktown, and you'll notice that we're on Hunter Street right now. This street is a one-way street, and at the end of that one-way street we just passed by, where the intersection of Wellington is probably one of the most dangerous intersections in this ward, because there's not a lot of proper ways to get around there, and there's unactivated green spaces around. So for instance, back there we just passed by, there's a little Triangle Park, as I fondly call it, but no way really to get to Triangle Park. No way to sit and just enjoy that tiny space. This is the second densest neighborhood in terms of apartment buildings in the ward, and you'll notice most of them are this way. And you can see some of them here, some of them over there. There's a large one we just passed by there. And one of the things tenants are facing right now, and that happened in this building, is building owners are slapping a coat of paint on the building and then raising the rent by using an above guideline increase. That happened at that building about 5 years ago. And it's putting a lot of pressure on tenants in a market which is already pretty high. During those processes of renovations too, there are sometimes tactics used to pressure tenants to leave their units. The legacy tenant who's living in that building has been there for 20 years. They're paying significantly less than market rent right now, significantly less. If that tenant was to leave that unit, that unit could be re-rented to somebody for a much higher market rent. And so there's a huge financial incentive to continue to do this kind of thing downtown, pushing people out. As I've said many times, to where are we pushing them out? Where are they meant to go? Once they leave this place at a rent they can afford to pay now, at maybe $800 or $900 or $1,000, out to a rental market where they're paying an average of $1,700. How does someone do that? And what do those pressures mean, right? Yeah, so important.
Yeah, just because we're going to wrap.
Yeah.
So we're almost at City Hall now, and really just bouncing off of what Councillor Crench was saying. You'll see, as we all have every day when we come to City Hall, some of the folks that have been displaced, particularly we see this corridor around the YWCA, and I think that just gives us a reminder of a responsibility that we have to really think carefully and creatively about how we address some of the difficulties that people are facing in our community. Now, having said that, we are now back up at City Hall. I don't know which floor we're going to in terms of our disembarkment, but I want to say thank you to everyone. Thank you to everyone for the great descriptions and the sharing that happened during this tour. I'm really happy that people bought in and that we were able to do it. And look how long it took us with only one stop to get through some of our fantastic city. Just some of our fantastic city. One of the things I wanted to share with you is that there's a media availability when we get back into City Hall. You're welcome to to be part of it. I'm going to ask a couple of questions, or rather answer a couple of questions. There's a couple of media folks there, and apparently it's kosher for us to adjourn as we leave this bus and then be available for the media. So I want to thank staff as well. I want to thank our fantastic driver. He's done a really great job for us today. And I want to say that much of this was done through the clerk's office, the city manager's office, the communications folks, but it was kind of stick handled from the get-go by Grace Mader. And so Grace, I want to say special thank you to you for taking this on. And on that note, I think I'm going to have to call for a motion to adjourn. So can I have a motion to adjourn? Councillor Spadafora and Councillor Cassar, first and second. All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Okay. Thanks, everyone. That was carried.
And for members of council, if you wanted to, it's an online media.